Welcome to Good Buddy Comics. This is Good Buddy Chat with special guest, and we never switch them until we get on the
I was
show
just gonna do
because
it. Yeah.
there we go with special guest Morgan Beem. Welcome to the show, Morgan.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. Excited to be here.
Yeah.
I know
Excited to have you here.
we were talking about getting all the nerves worked out before the show, and as the countdown's going down, StreamYard moved our counter to the right side of the screen, so it's got me all messed up. Now this is gonna take a while to adjust to it, but we'll make it.
I didn't even notice. I think it's because I moved because like the StreamYard logo I moved because it was always like because they're the QR codes we can put up, and when I do it covers my face, and then I have to like move.
I don't want to do that.
You're just like this the whole
Like,
stream, yeah.
Yeah. Peeking out. So I was like, let's try this time and see if this works better. So.
But you'll see why I'm on the bottom, Morgan, because as we put the comments up, I disappear
see.
completely. So it's all by design. We're good.
You're just hiding behind, yeah. Keep your nerves under
That's
control.
exactly right. That's right. But welcome, Seth, to the show. Welcome, Ryan. Good to have you with us. And as we said, Good Buddy Chat with Morgan Beem. And before we get started with all the great stuff that we're going to have looking forward to talking with Morgan about, we got to open up the club. And Morgan, I don't know if you've ever seen the show before. I'm assuming not because we have a small demographic. But welcome to the club, Morgan, the Good Buddy Certified Club. You are now officially a Good Buddy. Anytime you ever choose to put yourself through this again, you will be Good Buddy Morgan Beem forevermore. So welcome to the club.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
In the past, we've always told guests that hopefully one day we'll have stickers, and I can go ahead and say that we do actually have stickers now. So if we ever see you at a show or anything like that, we'll be sure to give you a Good Buddy certified sticker. So
Heck yeah.
If that's not worth the price of admission, I don't know what is. So.
There's
yeah,
no
nobody
greater
say
joy
you're
in life,
sorry.
honestly,
Yeah.
than club stickers.
But this is something that we've been trying to get on too. You are the first female artist that we've had on here, and the first female artist in the Good Buddy Club. So you will hold a
Oh,
special
dang.
place.
Honorary.
Yeah. That was, and I was like, all right, I've been so excited to have you on here because I was like, this is a big moment for the Good Buddy Club or Good Buddy.
Awesome. Thrilled
Comics.
to be here.
All right, we are thrilled to have you here as well. But we're going to kick right into the show. Tyler, you had picked the first few of these commissions, and I know why you picked this next one.
I know, yeah. So I had to choose this Twin Peaks one. So again, being relatively new to your artwork and stuff, and also funny enough, being relatively new to Twin Peaks, I was only recently just started the show. Finally, it's like been on my list for quite a while, and we're still making our way through episode 2, my partner and I. But it's just such a fun show, and funny enough, I think it was because of John Young, who works with Scotty. I think he liked your poster share. That's where I saw it. But I love this piece so much. It's so cool that you got commissioned to do, and your artwork just feels so fitting for it too. That I was like, oh, I definitely have to get this at some point, like another Twin Peaks commission at some point, because it's just too good. So.
Thank you. Yeah, I was so thrilled. This is a gentleman who actually came up, who I was chatting with and met at New York Comic Con, and he collects Twin Peaks commissions. So he has a whole bunch of characters and various ones. He showed me a couple. There are some really good ones that he has, which was definitely after he showed me some. I was like, man, I really gotta bring it. But I am a huge Twin Peaks fan. I'm a huge Lynch fan in general. I love he's so able to create like such a just kind of like uniquely creepy, eerie mood. And I love that kind of stuff that's just sort of like vaguely unsettling. So when I was asked to do this one, I was like, oh heck yeah, that'll be really fun. And then it was kind of interesting doing research for it to kind of figure out how to like both capture the mood of the show, but obviously like with a character and moment that isn't necessarily, we're not like, spoilers for anybody who hasn't watched it, but or how far you are, Tyler, like in the Red Room, or these kind of like super intense moments. But it was fun to think about the time period and the kind of like slightly desaturated setting, and that kind of like eerie mountain feel, and like what objects and things that I could put in Lucy's office, or what was iconically on the set that kind of like gave that vibe.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, it's almost kind of like this slice of life kind of deal. Like it's just such a fun moment, because again, that's what makes that show so fun too, is that like it'll just have those regular moments that just feel like so ordinary, and I think that's what helps that like odd supernatural flow throughout the show of like making those more suspenseful moments feel odd. But it's such a great piece, and I love that. I love the environment stuff. I love characters, but again, being 3D environment arts, like I love environment stuff. So
yeah,
I love getting those snapshots because it tells so much story.
Mhm.
Just all these pieces, like you said, you've picked and decided to put in here. So no,
yeah,
that's
it was fun. Also, I love like the classic comic commission that's a lot of times like superheroes or sometimes video game characters.
yeah.
It's always so fun to do like my own interpretation of those fandoms. But I really like that. I think just both the combination of having a little bit more of like a stylized sort of cartoony style, and then with the watercolor, I feel like I do a lot of times get some like the like little bit more like off the beaten path commissions. Like I've done
Yeah.
this one. I did the ending scene from the movie The Graduate. I
really?
did,
the
yeah, like
the bus scene.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
like just
great.
various ones, and it's always so fun to see what people like come up and will pay like their hard-earned money too. It's like something they're
Yeah.
really invested
Uh-huh.
in. And so that kind of thing is just it's always really fun to see what kind of things fire off in people's minds.
Yeah. No, for sure. And it's such a specific, I mean, because it's something I've noticed a lot more, and Dustin and I have talked about it in the past of how much more we're recognizing that there's more artists being recognized to do watercolor, like Jared Cullum and other artists that, like yourself.
Oh yeah,
because it's such a
another
interesting
artist.
Another artist bullpen, because it's such an interesting medium that like you just don't see it a lot in comics, but it seems to be, in my opinion, like making like surgeons of like there's more that I'm seeing out there, which is really cool because it's such an awesome medium and lends itself to such a different style more often than not than other, like it really stands out amongst row of comic books. So
well, and it's so fun, I feel like, to see like what people use it in like the different styles. So like Jared, versus like me versus like Tyler Crook or like Dustin Wen, or like Patrick Horvath, like everybody using watercolor in really interesting, unique ways to tell like a very different kinds of stories. I always think is really fun. I also like, looking at like Patrick and Tyler Crook, like the sort of middle section of like watercolor, this thing you think of very like painterly and beautiful and like horror. It's always really fun to me.
I was say, I know you're like a big fan of sorry, I can keep cutting. You can go first, Dustin.
No. I was just going to say it's so scary to watch anybody paint with watercolors though, because I'm always like holding my breath as the paint kind of goes down the page. And the very first time I got to watch anybody live was a couple of years ago at Heroes, when Tyler and me were watching Jared paint, and he was kind of describing how you move it and how you do all that. And I thought it would just be like Rorschach painting if I ever tried to do something like that. But it's just so impressive.
That's part of the joy of it though, is that it is kind of like a Rorschach painting. Like you do kind of let it do its own thing a little bit, like especially like if you're like dropping paint into where it's already wet or whatever, like you have a general idea, especially if you're doing of kind of where it's going to spread and what it's going to do, but you don't have 100% control. But that's kind of what makes it fun, and kind of what sometimes I think makes a lot of the like beautiful moments is like when something dries in a hard edge in a way that you didn't expect or kind of spreads into a different area. And then also the nice thing is if you put something down and you're like, oh shit, that was really bad, you have like not much time, a few seconds, but you can kind of just like wipe it back off. So there's a little room for forgiveness.
Well, this paint, I'm sorry, Carl, I'll cut you off that time. I was just saying this painting on the right,
because it's so interesting, like getting like the control, like getting especially with comic books, comics are so well known for their inks and their controlled line work and everything, and you'll see that in your art, but then there's still that still like the moments like say with the one on the right here with like the skulls in the background, like again where it's a little bit more loose, a little bit more fluid, but it plays really well still, or like with the hair, elements like that. So it's just so interesting to see that you can get, because I never really realized that you could get that kind of control out of watercolor as a medium. I thought it was, like you said, more painterly, more fluid, but to be able to still see like line work and that kind of stuff is so interesting to me. So
yeah, the nice thing with watercolor is because you can build it up in layers. Like as when the paper is wet, wherever it's wet, you don't have control over, but wherever the paper is dry, you have pretty decided control. And so the nice thing is that like you can put like the mystique there with the skulls, right? So like you do like the first initial wash of like colors, the like blue and purple, and then you just get like a slightly darker, and you kind of build it up that way. And as long as the underpaint is dry, you have a little bit more control than you think. It's just that like you have to be patient, which is not always my strong suit, so sometimes it gets screwed up where you're like, oh, that could be dry enough, and then you try to put more paint in and it bleeds into the other. Which is also the nice thing about comics, right? Is that I also, less so for the commissions because the originals do go out to people, but for my interior work, I definitely screw up a lot, but I can always be like, oh, I'll fix that in Photoshop. Like I'll just clone stamp tool, fix that a little bit, which is the really nice thing, a little bit of a freeing thing about having a a medium right that's for reproduction is that I don't have to be so nervous because I know, and that's the same for inking too. Like I know people inking, you pull a line bad or you do whatever, you can white it out, but you can also just be like, I'll just delete that, for the final file. And so it's nice because I think it allows people to be a little bit more experimental and figure out kind of where that level of control is. I do think that watercolor, like I am definitely a type B person, and I think if you were type A, it would be a little harder, but any type A watercolorists out there, feel free to correct me. And some of it uniquely for painting too, for watercolor, also has to do with the type of paper. This is where I'll get really nerdy and technical, but so I use a cold press paper, which takes the paint really well. And so again, kind of like how you can see in the Mystique one there, it blends everything out really nicely, right? So when I lay out a bunch of color, it'll kind of evenly spread out and mix together in this kind of lovely way. But there's another kind of paper that's called hot press paper. And I know a lot of comic artists use hot press. I was trying to think, I think Tyler Crook actually uses a multimedia paper, but either way, both multimedia and hot press are a little bit more exacting, right? So like botanic illustration, for example, uses a lot of watercolor, or like anatomical illustration that has to be like very, very exact. You'll use a hot press paper because like that stroke stays exactly where you put it. So you can have a lot more control, but it also means it's a lot less forgiving, because if you put that stroke down and it dries or whatever, you can't kind of buff out that edge or like reblend it. Like it's kind of like it's there.
It's there, yeah.
So like depending what kind of painter you are, you can use
room temp paper.
That's Zach. One of my reps of artist build pen.
Good buddy Zach Rosenberg.
Zach is super good friends. So
but the piece, the Mystique piece, is actually, whenever I ordered a commission from you, I was trying to figure out what, and I was going off the beaten path, and then I went superhero genre because I saw the Mystique, and I that's like, well, I know you will take this character and kind of spin it on its ear and just do the, because your art is such a like a beautiful symphony of all these colors and everything. And I thought I'm going to try it. The next one I get is going to be as weird as I can make it. I want to get some character that's like something that's completely off the wall. But I almost went Ted Lasso. That was my first.
Oh, Ted Lasso would have been funny. Yeah. I'm very excited to work on your commission though. Can I tell the chat what it is, or is it a secret for?
Oh no, that's I didn't. You're more than welcome to.
Because you got Lobo and Dog, right?
That's correct.
I think from my list. And that's really fun because I think, as you guys know, but the rest of the chat might not know, but Jorge Corona, who's currently drawing Lobo, is a member of my studio. He's on the other side of this wall, and also my husband. So it'll be really fun to now that he's doing this character to put my own spin on it.
But that's one, the counter to it. I wanted to, because I knew it'd be such a playful balance. Because I have some pages that I've ordered from Kirby from Lobo #1, so it's going to be fun to put those on the wall next to each other. So that's
good. Well, no pressure, but
no, not at all. You're going to do a wonderful job, I'm sure, because just looking at these pieces that we've seen, really, really well done.
Yeah, I'm really excited to play in that sandbox, though. I think it'll be really fun.
It seems like a good, weird, wild character to kind of cut loose with. So. And speaking of weird, wild characters to cut loose with, Gert, of course, from My Fairyland, we had to throw in there. We're huge Scud Young fans, so always fun to see people's interpretations of Gert, especially with those blood splatters, just really
so beautiful, beautiful blood, beautiful violence.
Page, so
thank you. Yeah, blood and watercolor, kind of like hair and smoke, is always really fun because with the splatter and things, you can really get there. And then Gert is just such a great character. I love that she lends herself, like you can see like tons of other people's commissions and various covers and side stories that Scotty has done over time. She just lends herself to like other people's really unique styles really well for being such like a bold, stylized character. And so it's always such a pleasure to draw her. She's also just like nuts, which is super fun. So love I Hate Fairyland. Big fan of Scotty in general.
but the one that's I love the Gert, but the Joe Kelly's I Kill Giants on the right.
Yeah,
I saw that was in someone's calf gallery, and I wish I'd have got their name. I hate not giving them credit, but I saw that on there, and I thought we've got to put this in the slide because I wanted to talk about that a little bit. Just, are you a big fan of that story? Have you?
Oh my God, I'm such a big fan of that story. That's one of those story. You read. I read that one when I was still in school, actually, and it just is such a. an amazing example of like what comics can do as a storytelling medium.
Yeah.
Like just the beats of that and the
Mm-hmm.
emotional impact. I saw the live action movie they made, which was incredible. Actually, it was really good, but
Yeah,
it's still like
it's hard.
the
It's hard to live up to it.
well, it isn't just because the comics can be such a fantastical medium, so really well, tackling that, like, is this a real thing that's happening, is this a figment of her imagination, like, and how it's all like a
Yeah.
visual metaphor for grief,
That's
and
right.
yeah, I Kill Giants, and
That's
trauma.
right.
Was like, it was such an incredibly done comic.
Yeah.
I like weep every time I see it. It was actually wild. They did a screening of the movie back in the day. There used to be this local convention in Denver that was called Dink, and it was like an indie show, and it was great. And Joe Kelly had come out as a guest, and they were doing a screening in the movie theater, and so everybody filed in to go see this movie. They gave you bunny ears, and
Oh,
so it was
that's
just this
awesome.
like
That's great.
wild, surreal
Yeah.
moment, because it is just a
Yeah.
dark theater full of adults wearing bunny ears, quivering in like silent sobbing. I remember that as like such a distinct moment of like how surreal my life is. But yeah, the comic
That's wild.
is
Well,
wonderful.
Experiences like that are really awesome. So
this is totally accident, but my youngest daughter, just brought this down yesterday to the basement and got through reading it. So it was sitting over at the side. So I didn't even realize. But yeah, I love that story. Love it. Such a
Yeah.
great story.
it's such a great one. Yeah, I need to reread it. It's one that it's been a while since I've read it, so I'm like, that needs to go back on my read
It's
list.
hard because it doesn't like it's an emotional story, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so good.
It's those heavy hitting ones are it's like you remember them so vividly, but yeah, revisiting them is a little bit more difficult than something that's more playful or
Mhm.
lighthearted. So for sure.
Oh boy,
Yeah.
we got some old stuff.
I went
Yeah, we
deep
just-
into the calf whale for this one comic art fan. So. But we have a friend, Seth. Seth loves death and dream and all that. So I saw the character on the right, and I'm going to butcher the name. Delirium. Is
you're
that
right, yeah.
okay? Good,
Yeah.
good. I didn't practice it before I came home, but he loves those type of characters. When I saw this, I thought, yeah, this would be something that, I mean, anybody that loves this character would love to have that. Just from the color of the hair, you were talking about the hair just a few seconds ago, along with the smoke on the left side there. So I mean, there's just all kinds of fun stuff that are going on in both of these.
Yeah, Delirium, I think, is one of those characters that definitely, like, in design, lends themselves or herself very well to like kind of the unexpected and playfulness of watercolor.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just, again, as you'll realize as we keep talking, I really like sort of like absurd, uh, weird or whimsical things. And so that commission was really fun for me because, again, with that character and that obviously whole property, there's a lot to play with there.
Is there any property that you haven't gotten yet that you're hoping to get like a
a good
commission
question.
for at some point, or?
Oh, I mean, a ton. I'm, a fan of like so many things. Again, a lot of times people surprise me. Like the Twin Peaks one, again, is also, I really enjoyed doing that one. I don't think I would have ever
Yeah.
thought like, oh, that's something I'd want to do, in 100 years. I'm like a huge anime fan. So, a lot of those, like I'd love to do like a Yu Yu Hakusho commission.
Oh,
Or, like
that's
Sailor Moon, my
Tyler's.
forever eternal love. Yeah, or just like weird. I like weird stuff. I've gotten a lot in the past, like people's original characters and things, which is always really fun too. A lot of like sort of untraditional like D&D characters and things.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I'm trying to think about other big I'm trying to think about ones I've done and ones I would like to do. Again, any of the Studio Ghibli stuff is great.
Yeah.
I super enjoyed
there
doing
we
that
go.
Howl's Moving Castle one.
Yeah, we didn't call it out, but yeah, I absolutely love Studio Ghibli. We're trying to get Dustin hasn't watched any movies yet, so we
I've got homework to watch. I've got
Oh,
homework
Dustin,
to
you're gonna
watch.
be
Yeah,
you're
to
gonna
watch
be so
one, so,
thrilled.
yeah.
It is a
Totoro,
magical
Totoro.
experience.
Yeah,
My Neighbor
Totoro,
Totoro.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's on. I got to watch it. Derek Loffman had gave me that assignment for the next time he comes on.
Oh,
so I'm
good,
gonna
yeah.
watch it. I've got till June 23rd to watch it, but I'm going to. I'm looking
It's
forward to it.
very magical. It's like a very unique and stunning form of storytelling. I think you're gonna be thrilled.
I'm looking forward to it. I've heard nothing but good stuff about it, so it's on me for not watching it. I'm half ashamed to even have the show anymore, as me, because every artist that comes on mentions it at least one time. So it's like this is a pretty big.
I feel like now you're just standing on principle. Like I'm gonna be the remaining man.
I'm
Yeah.
not gonna watch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, have you did any K-pop Demon Hunter? Because that's the other
I
property
have
that we
not done
always talk
K-pop
about.
Demon Hunter
Oh.
yet.
Okay,
That would
Tyler,
also be those
remember-
character designs are so fun. That was
okay,
such a
that's-
charming movie.
Tyler loves it. Tyler absolutely loves it.
I'm rocking my shirt. I've got my Saja Boys cardboard cutout back there. Yeah, I'm like a diehard. I'm like, I'll get a tattoo at some point, probably. Like, yeah, it was just such a fun and interesting film.
It was so well done from both like animation designs, but also just like the story was so solid.
Yeah. Yeah, I was excited from like as soon as the trailer dropped for like the art perspective of like, oh, I love this. This
Absolutely,
is great.
Zach.
And then exactly. Hair alone, from
Hair Game
K-pop
Strong
could be a commission.
Oh me. All right. Well, that's good information to know, Tyler. Now you got.
I know. Yeah, I'm always on the lookout. So
that's yep. All right, so we start. Yeah, this one is currently available. Briar Knight's Terror is currently available on Artist Bullpen.
There we go.
Okay.
Look at that. See, I'm not covered.
Pull up the QR code. I love it. I love it. Very clever, Tyler. Look at you. but these this cover and other covers are available on Artist Bullpen, and we'll keep throwing that name up here. Morgan's work on there, along with several other great artists. So definitely worth looking.
Tons of. I mean, Morgan has a ton of work on there from Author Immortal, the covers like you're like coming up like so. There's a lot of great stuff, and again, not to mention everybody else that's on there. So
absolutely,
definitely get yourself on Artist Bullpen if you haven't yet. So.
And I Hate Fairyland pages are still available on there as well.
Yeah, I think we do still have a few of those.
Yeah, I was looking at them today, just trying to pick one. So.
But yeah, we've got the Briar Knight's Terror, which if you guys haven't read the Briar series and you like fantasy or fairy tales, it's really good. So it was a real treat to do that cover because I was a fan of the series. I do though, sometimes the publishers screw me over because like this happens all the time. You can tell I leave space in the top so you can put the title treatment, and then after I turn in the cover, they're like, we're going to do a virgin variant cover. And I'm like, God damn it, guys. Like, I could have scooted the whole composition up 2 inches.
Oh.
It's an interesting...
It's flattering because I know it's because they like it, but it's
but still. Give me
a heads up. It's an interesting topic. We never really got into like an artist previous because I remember, or I watched a video clip of Sean Crystal talking about it because somebody had asked him, like, what do you design for the non, the virgin cover or like the one with the trade dress and everything. So yeah, it's got to be an interesting balance, like you said, like if you're making it with the trade dress in mind, but then it's like, all right, well, you take that out and it's like, I wish I could have. It's got to be a difficult line to balance,
and especially because if you think about what you see when it's on the comic shelf, sometimes stacked with the other ones, like you normally because you see the title, so you see, but like if you look at that Briar, if you cover like 2/3 of it, you're not getting a ton of the preview of the image. So that's always sometimes it just is a little bit of miscommunication, especially because sometimes they'll know ahead of time, and it's really great if you can plan like, hey, okay, go nuts, there's no title treatment, but a lot of times the publishers will send you a template that includes the title treatment, so you know what to budget for, which is great, but then it is a double betrayal when they publish it without it. It's like, you set me up this way.
You did this on purpose.
But I still really enjoyed that cover. Unlike, bless them, the Buffy the Vampire Slayer Hellmouth, you can see that is an interesting shape for the title treatment, and so that's another one that they thankfully gave me a template in advance, so I could kind of budget room wise.
I was gonna say, that is a really interesting, one you don't typically kind of see for that kind of stuff. So I would imagine that would be an interesting one if you didn't have that to begin with to work with. So.
It would be it would be really the poor book designer would be like, I hate you and everyone.
Yeah, I added Briar Knight's Terror only recently. I haven't started it yet because I got the trade for the previous Briar Knights or Briar, and then this new one because it caught my eye. So yeah, it looked really interesting. So if
you like sort of like grim fairy tales or that kind of like storybook fairy tale-esque like vibe, you're really gonna enjoy it.
Cool. No, I'm definitely excited for it. So I didn't know you had done a cover for it until we were doing the earlier work to get the slides and everything. So yeah.
Well, Morgan, I will say, as we were grabbing different covers and different interiors and things like that, I was like, oh my gosh, there is so much out there, because I've kind of followed you on some projects, but yeah, there's just all kind. I mean, you have did so many covers and so many like really awesome covers that I've even seen back in my collecting days, and I didn't realize they were yours until we were doing research for. So it was kind of a treat to just go back down memory lane and see all of them.
Trying to shuffle along full time, but yeah, I've been doing comics full time now for probably about 10 years. So a lot of pages in that time For
No,
sure.
I would say, well, the great thing about a cover too, a great cover can make you want to read a book, whether you know
Mhm.
anything about it. And this
Mhm.
one's a great example, the White House Robot Romance. I have no idea what that book's about, but that
That book's a
cover makes
trip.
me want to read. It makes me want to
It's
read it just by that cover.
it's really good. So same thing. I hadn't heard of the comic until I got reached out for the cover, and so then in reading it obviously, so you can get the plot information, so you can make a good cover. It's a really fascinating.
Yeah.
It is a pretty wild series. It kind of spells it out as it is, White House Robot Romance. So you have like slightly future set White House, and you
Okay.
have a lot of like robots that are like kitchen workers or security detail or like these different things, and it's kind of one of those like laws of robotics and like robots
Ah,
being treated less
Okay.
as people but still as like sort of
yeah.
sentient beings, and like the sort of relationships they come up with together, and the obviously then plot that ensues from there. But it's another really fun one. That's the wild thing about comics, right? There's so many made all the time. Like comics are just
Yeah.
coming out all the
Yeah.
time, because comic people are passionate and they will find a way to get their book out, whether it's
Yeah.
graphic novels like through for second graphics, or in comic shops like Vinge Boom or Kickstarter or like whatever. And it's the only bummer about that is like there's so many that are incredible that like you'll just probably never hear of,
Yeah.
that like
Yeah.
you'll just like miss at some point. But yeah, so it's always kind of a treat when I can come across one, either via this way for my job, or just stumble upon that, like isn't sensationalized or wasn't big news, but you just pick it up and you're like, by God, that was a good comic.
Yeah. No, that's my favorites. I mean, like, because it's one of those things where it's like, you're like, oh man, I missed the boat and stuff. But I'm like, if it's good, I'm like, I'm just glad I found it. Like, so I'm just
Hmm.
glad that like I stumbled
Yeah.
across it, whether
Hmm.
it's when it came out or it's years later. Like, if it's
Yeah.
years, I'm like, man, I wish I would have caught this like during, I could pick up the individual issues and read it that way. But, like you said, there's just so much. And obviously that's part of the cover work, is trying to get that, because like you
Hmm.
said, you got to stand out amongst the wall, which, again, I think your art like lends itself to that, because it's just, again, it's such a different style than you see with most comic artists. I mean, that's a big thing. That's what stuck out with Author Immortal, where
Yeah.
your covers and everything, and then it's like, oh, I want, like, what's this, and then like digging in and then seeing the artwork and everything. So,
Oh, thank you.
yeah, no, it's such a blast to get to see more, because again, like, there's artists we've had on who I've known for years. There's artists like yourself who are newer to me, so it's always super fun to get to like dig into their like works, regardless of how long I've known their artwork for. So
Yeah, and this show has cost us so much money, Morgan, because whenever we have artists like yourself on, we have to go out and buy books. Like, I've got tons of books in my Kindles that I've got to finish reading now, and one's over my shelf, and just from different artists we've had on, yourself included. There's one story that we get to here in a few minutes.
Hmm.
Me and Tyler were both talking about it, and he's got the book, and he's going to read it. And I said, I've got to go out and get this book just because I want the story from it. And we'll
Hmm.
we'll talk about it here in a second after we get to
Yeah,
that. So,
it is wild. I'm lucky. I feel like both Jorge and I joke all the time, but we're having kind of like a comics renaissance, right? Because like there
yeah,
was a while, I feel like, where just because you're so like nose to the grindstone making comics, it's almost like you stop having time to read comics, which is a real bummer when
yeah,
that happens. Or sometimes there was also different points in our career where you just like you get burnt out. Like I'm usually working on two books at once. Sometimes it's a little bit more, and sometimes it's like, oh my God, I've thought about story all day. I can't come home and ingest more story. And
yeah,
that'll come for like
yeah,
even TV
yeah.
shows or things where it's like I can't watch
No,
anything
no,
new. I just can't do
anything,
this.
yeah,
But it's been fun. It was both during the pandemic. Jorge and I got on RIP OG Comixology, which was just like this really suddenly, which is like this very accessible, great way to like read
yeah.
upcoming comics and things coming out.
Ah,
And unfortunately, that kind of tanked. But we did just discover Global Comics,
mhm.
which is like sort of like subscription based, legal,
Look that up.
non pirated, obviously, because
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
working in the
Yeah,
industry
Yeah, yeah,
myself, I'm not about
yeah.
that.
Sorry.
But like,
I
but
have
so like,
heard of them.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, supporting the creators. They have a lot of like image titles, a lot of the DC ones and whatever, and it's like I think it's like $6 or $7 a month or something. So it's like a pretty
oh,
good
it's
deal
not
to
good,
read
bad
a
at
lot of
all.
titles and like be able to check out kind of new ones that maybe you didn't want to commit to the series yet or you hadn't heard of. And then that way we find ones we like, and then we will call up our local shop and put them on hold and stuff. But yeah, it's been like really, I feel like we've both like been much better about reading like a lot of titles as either as they are coming out or that are like newer, via having that. Same with manga with like the Shonen Jump and Vizap. That's
Yeah.
the best thing ever because it's like $3 and you can read like
Yeah,
all
you
their
could read
top
so,
hits.
and you have access to your fingertips is just insane.
Yeah.
That's good to know about because I've been wanting something to replace Comixology because, like you said, it's ever since its downfall. And I've seen a whole bunch of ones. There was another one like a candy, I think it's like call it Candy Shop or something that I've been seeing a lot.
Oh yeah, I've been meaning to check
one.
that one out too. I just saw that pop up.
Yeah, and I put in because it's like so new that it's like again they're very limited the people they've let in. So I'm like hoping I can get in at some point. But
wow.
But it's cool to see, Global Comics, or at least to hear another comic book artist like yourself, to because that is one of those difficult things where, especially with, like you said, so much to be able to read, it's nice to be able to pay for something and kind of get a taste for a whole bunch of things without having to like really commit to any, one thing. So
yeah, the way I see it, and especially as I try to balance it, is that like it helps. Again, we're in a kind of a digital age, and I do think that comics as an industry, which I think we're starting to, which is great, needs to figure out kind of a streaming or like digital platform like that, especially now that Comixology is gone, which was between Sweet Shop and
Sweet Shop,
Sweet Shop, Sweet Shop and Global Comics, and these certain things are popping up that Survival, we'll see which one kind of emerges from the dust, but I do think they're trying out those models that is good, because just like you said, I think a lot of people either don't have time to come to their comic shop all the time, or it's sometimes hard to, like, it's visually overwhelming and it's hard to see things. And so, I like to browse on there because you can try out a bunch of stuff. And then when you find a series you do like, then you can be like, oh, hell yeah, I'll sign up to these issues. Or, I make sure I always pick up, like, once it's my favorite, like I'll always own the trades and stuff. And so that way, and it's through these platforms that are making these deals with publishers and things. So you are still, it's not, again, because I think a lot of people, especially a lot of readers who I don't think understand just how small the margins are and just how much creators like me rely on you buying the books. If they can't access it on something like that, they will just read the scanned pirated version.
No, you're
because
absolutely
it's
right.
convenient and it's there. And I do think that a lot of people, if they had access to a platform that maybe they had to pay a fee for, would pay it, because I do think they want to support it. It's just the lack of access for that they do those things, which dear people watching this channel, please don't pirate. Literally, those margins are like the difference between making a career or not.
It's,
anyway,
it's,
I know it's hard.
It's such a crazy thing, because it's one of those things where, again, it's so, for a consumer, I feel like it's more out of sight, out of mind. Kind of like we talked about, like, again, the amount of work that goes into the comics. Again, like, it's your job. That's what you're doing. Again, like, whoever's job it is like, you wouldn't want me to steal whatever it is that you provide or service, whatever it is, because that means you wouldn't get, said cut of things. So,
well, yeah, and I think people also don't realize that, like, if you're reading the online version of that series and you're reading it all the time because you really like it, that creator's going to stop making it because they're not they're not going to be able to. So, like, if you like it, like, that's the thing, is that, like, the American comic industry is so small that we just it's not that I really think you should be pirating anything, but it's not like huge Hollywood movies or different things that have this, like, money engine behind it. It's like, if you like, especially like an image book, for example, if you're reading a pirate image book, you've condemned that book to death. Like, if you liked it, good luck, it's never coming out.
Well, because that's the thing too, is like them reading it. So.
So anyway, there's my
we're big advocates about going to local comic shops, supporting the books there, and helping the artists, because there's been a big boom in certain comics here lately, and we talked a little bit about this with John Wayshak last week, where these comics were coming out and they're just blowing up, whether it be Image or Absolute Batman. And people are really digging the #1. They're reproducing, they're reprinting, they're multiple prints, and we're saying, but those people that are really investing in those have to keep buying them as the series goes on sequentially, so you can get an issue 10, so you can get an issue 15,
exactly.
And also keep that art. If you love the product, keep investing in it on further down the road, and enjoy the story itself. So
well, like you said, because without them reading it, without those numbers to show, people actually buying it and supporting it, that shows, oh, this is the the readership we're getting. People are actually interested in this and wanted to continue. Because again, with Author Immortal, I know, like, the whole hope is to maybe even do like 80 issues or something, or I think it was like 60 or 80.
Frank's big hope was for 60 issues.
His number, he was like, his numbers, like, these other stories that he had referenced that were similar. So, and again, that it doesn't happen unless you're getting that readership that's supporting it and showing, hey, this is a good investment. Like, let's keep investing in this. So, I
Our,
Yeah.
our Canadian buddy Keith,
We
they buy in
appreciate
Canadian
you.
syrup.
Yeah.
So yeah, so but yeah, the cool thing about Author Immortal too is I've got it in one of my boxes here, and I could not find it before you came on, so I had to buy the digital version of it just so I could read it. So that, but because
Well,
I
double
wanted to
thank you
catch
for
up
that
on it,
then.
but
Yeah.
I thought it could, I buy so much product and because to try to support different artists and different stories I like, and then I don't have time to read them. But now that having some type of digital platform like you were talking about here with Global Comics
Yeah.
or all these other ones that could be coming out, I mean, it helps to have the floppy plus have the actual
Yeah.
digital version so you can take it with you on the go and read.
Yeah, it's such a great point because I was gonna say like you were saying like I mean I'm reading more comics now than ever. I have 3 short boxes next to me that is all the stuff that I have to actually read, which is insane to me. I've never had like I'm like, oh, things that go in boxes are things I've read and I've collected. It's like, no, I haven't even read these yet, which is great because there's so many awesome stories to read and catch up on. But like you said, it is easier. I mean, I just did it last night where it's like I have the hardcover volume of Radiant Black, and I was like, I'll just pull it up on my iPad because I had to open up my closet, get the thing. I was like, I have it on my iPad. I'll just
heavy.
read it. Yeah, I'll read it here, kind of a deal. But
or it's like I love that like if I'm on like a plane or like a long flight, I'll just go and like like download a bunch and then you can rather than trying to carry like 66 to read comics.
Exceed the weight limit on your carry-on item.
Well, I don't want to jump through these covers because we're kind of sliding through, but
I know
the Ain't No Grave, Seth has already commented he wants this cover, like he loves this comic. He doesn't have this one. This one was one of the more difficult to obtain ones from the round of Ain't No Grave because I believe this was the one that you had to sign up for some type of membership in order to get the issue, if I'm not mistaken. I may be getting it confused with the other Ain't No Grave, but it was one that really kind of puts you on, kind of my attention, like seeing your covers and looking at it because it was such a great cover of a writer. I mean, just that's perfect. And then the one on the right was a collaboration between you and Jorge, and I was trying to figure out how in the world do you collaborate on a piece that's as chaotic as it, because it's so cool to look at and zoom in on. But
it definitely helps being in the same studio. So essentially we like came up with the thumbnail idea together, and we've done a couple pieces like this where I think we've done 1 or 2 other covers and then like a poster where we've kind of collaborated, and it's usually some like one person takes one element, so it's like, okay, you do the main character, I'll do the background, or you do so that way you're not completely fighting over space or whatever, and then we'll kind of block out the thumbnail, and then usually it'll be like I think for like this cover, like Jorge drew like adult Gert, and then in the pencils like I kind of blocked out like where her space was, and then just like drew, so like the background behind her is like there's fully things behind the background, but I knew at least would be unimportant, and then we just kind of figured out how to like digitally mesh it together.
Oh, that's great. It's great. It works so well too. It's just
such an insanely awesome cover.
It does all these covers, and we say this every week. It doesn't do justice. People actually get the book, zoom in on them if you can find an image, because they're so much fun to like look at the detail on them too that you all put into it.
I've had a great time with those, and then the guys at Hall of Justice is our local shop. Sort of, it's technically in Parker, but it's the shop we go to all the time, and they're so supportive of the community there. They've just like really fostered a really good community. They love to support like local artists and different things. John, who owns it, is our good buddy, so he's definitely like again been supportive about when one of us has a series, he'll usually get like the other one of us or somebody else in the studio to do an exclusive cover.
That's really cool.
And so we just they're a really great shop.
I love, because it's like I unfortunately haven't gotten the chance to meet either you or Jorge, so I always appreciate when it's like the exclusive get posted. Like I'll get like the signed copies. Like I've got the signed copy of Jorge's Author Immortal cover, so it's always fun to be able to like know that I'm still supporting in some way. But if I can't do it in person, like I can order this and still get the cool exclusive, support the shops there and stuff. So that's awesome to hear that they're so supportive of y'all. So
they've been great. And then it's fun when we do signings, especially like ones out of state or whatever, if one of us does a cover for the other book, it's kind of like a 2-for-1 special. They bring us out, but we only need one hotel room, so it's easier.
That's fair.
Oh, that's great. Oh yeah, we're fighting. Now the Ether Rich was one that I just discovered recently because I'd seen the Zawa cover, but I love once again blood. You do blood so well, but I've never read Ether Rich, but it's I've seen various covers from it. And I want to read that one as well. But
it's a wild book. It's a good one.
Is it?
Yeah. It's definitely like thriller, sort of like psychological horror-y. It's pretty satisfying. It was a fun read. I really enjoyed that cover. I had so much fun with the kind of like duotone.
Yeah.
I always said I wanted to just look up like horror version of the New Yorker kind of. So yeah, it was fun. I enjoy, yeah, again, I'm a huge horror fan, so like blood and that kind of thing is always really fun for me to paint. The Zawa one is so funny, similar color scheme, but that's just, sort of coincidental from the character. Same thing. I really love that book. I love, again, sort of like, especially like fairy tales or like urban fairy tales, and the message of that comic and also the character designs in it were so fun. So it was another one that I was really excited to play with.
Yeah, it's both so beautiful. It's funny. I'm not much of a. It's funny because I'm finding myself to become more of a horror fan, but it's like a weird where there's like got to be at least, I guess, something kind of hopeful, I would say, or like not just so.
You don't want bleak.
Yeah, I don't want it to be at least like I can root for something, I suppose, but I am like getting more because I'm such a scaredy cat. I'm more spoopy than spooky. I like spoopy, like spooky is a little bit too much, but it is interesting. It's such an interesting. My partner, she really loves it because it's such an interesting genre, especially for film, because it's like you can do so much with so little. Then again, it just plays on the imagination. I think it works that well because everybody else has gone, to the extreme of we have all these technology and all these tools and things that we can utilize now that we've lost the limitations that made creativities so necessary for previous movies and stuff, whereas horror still works within that confine, which I think is what propels it forward more so than other genres. So
yeah, I'm with you though that I generally like horror where either the characters prevail or that maybe isn't like, I have a hard time with like, I love horror and I'm fine even with like really messed up horror, but I have a hard time with horror that's like just messed up for messed up sake, that's kind of like almost just like gore porn, like I'm just trying to show you like really screwed up stuff
the
just
Saw
for
movies,
the sake of it. Yeah, like that's not really my jam. I really like supernatural horror, like really creepy, like I like slow paced creepy things. Like my favorite.
More unsettling.
Yeah, and I love like a good slasher and whatever is fine, but I want like especially with a slasher, like you want what generally like the final girl or whatever like has to kick ass, has to persevere at the end. And sometimes when you just watch a character get messed up for the whole movie and then you're like it's over, you're like why did I? So I am on page about the completely bleak horror is not always so much for me, but
that's fair.
Many other types I like.
No, I think it's a good, like you said, it's something because you can see it in your work, like you said, it's more of like the supernatural or unsettling, even like just like the single images here where it's like, ooh, it's bleak, but there's something interesting about it because like you want to learn more rather than it be just oh, I don't want to like, it's like, oh, what is this? Why are they all at the table with, all these discarded bones around them? Like what, like it leads you into it. I feel like more so than just cutting it off and just going, oh, this is just, sour and bleak and stuff. Like there's more to it than maybe meets the eye. So.
Well, I had a correction to make. This is available now. For Seth was saying they wanted.
Oh, is this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ain't No Grave is available at Hall of Justice.
I was gonna say I thought it was just a store exclusive, but yeah.
Yeah, it was the other. There was a separate variant that I was thinking of, so I wanted to correct myself. I felt bad because I was like, oh, good.
I couldn't remember. I was like, I have this cover. I was like, I didn't remember having to sign up for anything, but I was like, it'd been a little while, so I was like, I don't know for sure.
Yeah, we try to correct our mistakes when we make them on there, but we put that in the chat. So yeah, it is available and it is a great cover to get. Highly recommend. Go support that. It's also a great
series. Shop. I mean, it's like Jorge was born to draw a Western, man.
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting. Ever since he's paired with Scotty, the stories and stuff they're doing are just so perfectly paired. It feels like so. I was gonna say we didn't include it, but I want to give a shout out to the Me You Love in the Dark cover. Because we should have included that as well. Like that's such a hauntingly beautiful cover for such a beautiful haunting story. Yeah, I absolutely love that one, and I was like, man, why didn't we? I should have included that one as well.
No
so
we only have
now
we
everybody
only
will
have
just
an
have to
hour, so,
Google it
yeah.
to be curious.
True, yeah, it's like go look that up. Yeah,
yeah. I swear there were so many covers I wanted to include that I couldn't get to because I didn't want to take too much of her time. But yeah,
No, yeah, I appreciate that. That one, yeah, again, another Jorge and Scotty book for those who don't know, although it was very popular, so I feel like most of you probably do. Another one though,
yeah.
like that kind of slow, creepy horror, which is completely my jam. They
yeah.
really knocked it out of the park with that book. It is so well done.
Yeah, no, like you said, it's that supernatural unsettling, and it's such an interesting again, and I like those, and it's interesting because hearing you and Frank talk about it, how again most creators would like to do a long running series, but there is something to be said for some certain stories like that where it felt so perfect being like just a bite-sized chunk of 5 issues. Not to say that it couldn't have gone on for longer, been a regular series, but yeah, it was such a great story. And again, it caught me. I think that was one of those ones where I read stories, and that's the thing, and that's so nice, and why I like being introduced to maybe artists or stories that I wouldn't have maybe considered at one point, because it opens up the door. It's like, oh, maybe I do like this stuff, and I just wasn't reading or like finding, because again, horror is such a
right kind, yeah.
big word. It's such a large blanket. There's so many, variety of storytelling underneath that. So yeah, to be able to find stuff, like Author Immortal, or not that Author Immortal is horror, but to find stories that like I maybe not have gone towards. Sorry, I'm kind of like rambling on now.
No, but I agree with you. I think there's a lot of times where things are also usually where I'm like, this wouldn't normally be in my wheelhouse, but then you read it and you're like, oh, I mean, I had that actually recently where like I like and I consume superhero comics, but it's not like I'm not like a huge like superhero, like I didn't grow up with Batman and Superman, so it's not my ethos. And so a lot of times, especially when you get to like people making their own superheroes and they're like really kind of like intellectually high concept or whatever, I'm like, I don't know, that's not for me. But that recently happened to me with the Power Fantasy, where when like I read the synopsis of that book, I was like, I don't know that this is like up my alley. It's not really. And then, dang, that is a good comic. It is really well done, so much so that I was like, maybe I like superheroes. It was just so. It was I don't even want to say anything about it because I feel like it's all kind of like spoilery, but just the characters are so well thought through. It just makes like a wonderfully complex story about sort of like superheroes and the like human morality that goes with that. I was really blown away by that series.
That's interesting. I need to add it because when I was picking up Lost Fantasy, I kept getting Power Fantasy, and I was like, I think they keep accidentally putting us in, thinking I was getting Power, not Lost. But and I was looking at it, and I was like, I don't know, maybe, but I'll definitely have to like give it another look, or another like, all right, let's give this an opportunity and actually read, an issue or two, and then like you said, then you can kind of tell from there. So
they do a good job again about like for anybody who hasn't read it, the brief overview is like you have. Think all of sort of like the X-Men, but you have like all these like various superpowered human beings, and you have like this small group that are considered like, I don't remember what they label them, but they're like weapons of mass destruction, essentially, right? Like they're like the most, like they could like end the world superpowers. And so all these like, I think whatever, like 8-10 people who have this like superpowered, they are all trying to do what they think is right. But the thing is, because they're all people, that doesn't always line up, and they have different priorities about their whatever. But it's done. That is sort of the question that series chases, and that problem is set up so well. And I feel like they understand the characters they've created and their morality that they're trying to achieve so well that it just makes for like a truly interesting read.
Interesting, yeah. No, I was gonna say, it's. I mean, that's the stuff that I love, and that's. Like you said, I think can sometimes be forgotten with superheroes is the morality side of it, like their human nature, human side, where it's focuses too much on the super rather than the human itself. So it is really interesting. Like you said, the stories that come out like that take the superheroes genre or story and just approach it in a different manner, a different view.
Yeah, and normally like when you hear a concept like that, like the first time I read it, I was like, that sounds a little pretentious. But again, like Dylan's like writing it's so well done that it's not. It is just like very much what it's trying to achieve. So another big recommend.
No, that's all. I mean, I love I'm always like, as soon as like my eyes will roll, it's like my second screen. So I'm like, all right, add that to my list to look up afterwards. So
Yeah, and Ryan, if this looks wrong, he said he came up with the idea while writing the X-Men, and I
Mhm.
swore I thought he said during the karaoke era, and I was trying to figure
Krakoa,
out
yeah.
what he was talking
I
about, but
also thought that said karaoke.
okay, thank good. Okay,
Which
I
I
thought
was
it was
like, yeah,
just
sure.
me.
Now I want to, now I want a karaoke X-Men series, like just
Oh,
a
that's
short
yeah,
one. So
yeah.
But like an
I'd
intensely
watch it.
serious karaoke
yeah,
Yeah,
like
X-Men.
an
yeah,
actual like battle
yeah,
for like it's like
yeah.
yeah.
Actual
That's
stakes with the karaoke,
yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah.
But speaking of superheroes, which is a fitting I thought, how in the world are we going to segue to Wonder Woman Black and Gold
Oh,
from
there we go.
horror? And you did a perfect job. So that's great. That's great. So this was a series that you had worked on, and you shared some of
Mhm.
these interiors with us here. Krakoa. There we go. But
Yeah.
yeah, this is another book that I haven't read. I think I have
Yeah.
this book over in my short box, but I have not read this one. What was it like to work on this one?
It was such a delight. It was so fun. The Wonder Woman Black and Gold, just like the other the like I think it's like Superman Red and White and Batman
Mhm.
Black and White. It's
Yeah.
always two colors, but it's
Yeah.
Yeah,
fun because they
that's
kind of
yeah,
just they get a bunch of creators. Like myself, who are not
yeah.
generally like who you would think of for your like
Uh,
quintessential superhero art, and they just kind of let you do your own thing a little bit, like play
that's awesome.
in the
Yeah.
sandbox. Um, and this story was so fun because it really leaned kind of more into Wonder Woman, sort of like Greek god, rather than like Wonder Woman. I mean, obviously still like a superhero, but again, we're playing. The setting is this like creepy cavern, and you've got mystical fruit and enemies of past coming up and whatever, and
Mm.
so it has that sort of, again, that like mythology sort of fantasy lure. And so yeah, it was really fun. It was fun to be able to put my own spin on Wonder Woman's design a little bit. Like she got a cool like shoulder plate, and I gave her like super long anime hair. And so
Well,
like
that's
again, having
great.
that
That's a great
freedom to
feature.
just, yeah, to
Uh,
sort of like fan art my way through a short story was a real treat.
I
oh,
love
no
too
doubt.
the like you said, obviously with the titles, it was like two colors kind of a deal. But
Hmm.
I would assume that's got to be an interesting kind of like what you talked about earlier with like the blood and that the juxtaposition between just the all black. Is that something especially with something like gold? Was that difficult? That light and dark and balancing that, especially with. Do you run into an issue with watercolor where obviously you have to let it dry, but like where things can maybe get muddy or blend together or.
A little bit. It's easier than you think when you only have two colors. So like when I painted this one, I used a black watercolor paint, and then just that bright. It's a quinacridone gold. And
Okay.
so the nice thing is that because you don't have to focus so much on your color palette and the color mixing, you can really focus a little bit more on your values and like where you're placing the gold to like highlight and lead the eye and that kind of thing. So that became a little bit easier. And then same thing with watercolor, you just generally want to work, it's like the opposite of oil paint, right? So you want to work light to dark. So you
Mhm.
start with like your lightest color and then you build darks on top of it. So I knew as long as I put down like the gold first, the black can almost always go on top of it and like kind of cover that, as long as I've planned it out to not have to obviously do the reverse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so that one wasn't too bad. I've done a couple stories. Another book I did that came out last, oh gosh, was it already? Yeah, last year, was You Belong Here, which is the same thing, was sort of a young adult slice of life with you for a second, but he was also monochrome, so I
Yeah.
grayscale painted the whole thing. And yeah, it's kind of fun because it lets your brain again just focus on like sort of value and leading the eye that
Yeah.
way, which does take you an adjustment, but it's kind of nice because you're worrying about less things.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, it's just it's such pretty pages that really pop. Do you find too that because I think we maybe talked with Jared a little bit about it, but especially when dealing with comics and such a quick turnaround, that a medium that needs to dry before you can kind of continue, is that something where you find yourself kind of bouncing back and forth between pages where like you set up one, move to the next, and then kind of go back to finish them up, or
Yeah, definitely. I usually am doing so watercolor, because it takes time to dry, and also just the nature of it. It is like my longest. It's the step in my art that takes the most time. So I break it into chunks, right? So like in one work day, I can usually like pencil 4 pages, and then in one work day, I can ink 3 pages. It used to be 4, but I've stepped up my inking a little, so now it's a little slower. So now it's 3, and then same thing. I can usually watercolor 2 to 3 pages in a day. But in those 3 pages, I'm usually like laying in colors, setting that one aside, laying in colors, setting that one aside, in hopes that I can, kind of rotate it and not have to spend a ton of downtime just waiting for it to dry, because that can, that definitely is a pain. And I'm not, patience isn't like my strongest value. So if I have to like put the
right
paint and then just like watch it, I'll start to like want to pick at it, and then that's how I'm like, oh damn, now I ruined it.
Yeah. Well, these are some pages from You Belong Here. I just wanted to highlight that since you mentioned it as kind of a comparison of laying that down. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but I wanted to highlight that you had referenced those.
Yeah. It was another one that that one was fully monochrome, so not the duotone, and then they printed it in this like really lovely blue. But it was another one that, again, I hadn't worked in straight black and white in quite a while. But it was kind of fun to again just think about like the value of it, and let's think about like, okay, value and also pleasing color palette and like complementary shadow colors and what, which is a joy too. It just takes a lot more planning.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Okay, now we're getting to the one this is the one I've been wanting to talk about all night. This I don't own this one, but I was able to read the preview for it from I forget which website it was, and I messaged Tyler and I was like, I've got to read the rest of the story. I've got to find this, and Tyler's got the book, so I might say
I'm glad to. So I've been picking up more from Ignition. Just because, again, like it's one of those things where like there's just so many stories being made, and I'm seeing a lot coming from them, Ignition Press, just that are catching my eye and attention, and thankfully this was one that I had looked at but wasn't necessarily grabbing at first, and then thankfully I had somebody from my local comic store was like, oh, you need to read that, it's really good. And I was like, all right, cool. I was like, well, I was like on the fence, but I was like, you've sold me, and yeah, reading your story, I've got to read the other ones, but yeah, it was just such a, like you said, you're drawn to certain stories, and it didn't like let down, but it was such an interesting one to read. Because I don't want to like say anything without spoiling it. So
fair. Yeah, no, it was a real treat. I am a huge fan of Patrick Horvath's Love Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, and just him as a person. If you ever get the chance to like, I don't know if you guys have had him on or met or talked with him. He's just the most fascinating human. Like, just generally, every time we meet up, he tells me about like, you should have him on only so I can watch it, so I can get to the like stuff you're into section. Just because the stuff, like, he's just always like, oh, I'm really into this like like 1980s paranormal radio show, or just like I don't know. He just, every time I'm with him, I like learn something new and find new things to get into. So he's just brilliant. And we had been kind of dabbling, trying to work together with stuff, united by the bonds of watercolor, for a while. And so, Ignition approached us and was like, oh, Patrick wrote this short. Like, do you want to draw it? And I was like, absolutely. And yeah, super up my alley. Definitely like a little horror. I won't spoil anything, but and again, Patrick is so because before he was in comics, I believe he like directed like indie horror films, I think, or films of some kind. So like I think he just has such a strong command of like visual storytelling, and also really understands like, because the hard thing with anthologies like this, sometimes the short stories, is like it's not a lot of time to tell a story in 10 pages. Like you really have like 2 good scenes and that's it. And I just feel like he really nails that pacing really well. So again, another a joy to work on.
I was gonna say, is this one, because listening to Frank talk about how, in setting up writing pages for Author Immortal, which we can get into more, but that he doesn't want to get, like, he wants to let you be able to do what bringing your perspective as the artist. So I'm curious with something like this, where it is a little bit more short and confined, and time is of the essence. Like, are you given more to work with, or is it still very much like, again, that trust between artist and writer, where it's like, I know what you can do, and I'll let you kind of bring that to the table?
I think like a mix of both. Like I think both Patrick and then Maggie, the editor of this one, had a lot of faith in me. Like again, when I designed things or turned in pages, I didn't have very much pushback or notes unless it was just something that needed like clarification. I did have, Patrick sent in a very like thorough, easy to follow script, so I don't think there was a lot of question about that. And again, because this project also had an editor, I'm sure Patrick and Maggie maybe went through a couple reviews on the script before I got it. And then I also think Patrick, again, being an artist himself, is pretty good at just like conveying like this is the scene, you know, but also I think being an artist himself like respects like, you know, if I had a slightly different panel layout or switched up a shot call or whatever, it's like, oh no, that, you know, as long as what the point is clear. Most of the collaborators I've had, as long as the point is clear, are pretty chill to kind of let you do your own thing. Frank, obviously with the Author Immortal, it was a little different only just because we had so much more time. So like especially in that beginning process, especially because bless Frank, because he waited for me for a while because I was finishing up another book. But so we had a lot of time to go back and forth and be like, what do you think about this? And like, what about this design? You know, and so we could kind of like get on a video chat and like talk out scenes and like jam, you know, on the story. So I feel like while obviously I think like a short story like this is still collaborative, you know, like I it can't really compare to like a creator-owned book in that way where you are like really hive-minding the book together. Short stories, or my job as an artist, whenever I work with a writer, I always feel like I tell people that my job is like, so it'd be kind of like if something really cool happened to you, right? Like last weekend, this really cool thing happened to you and you told me about it. And then 2 weeks later, I went to a party with all our friends and I told them your story. That's like what my job as a comic artist is, right? Like it's not my story. I didn't come up with it, but I kind of am in charge of telling it. Like the pacing, the mood, that kind of thing is sort of like my job.
That's the greatest explanation of it. I absolutely love. I've never heard it phrased in such a way that makes absolute sense, but it's just like the funniest way to like describe it to somebody. It's like that's so good.
Really well done.
Because there's just so much more that goes into like the visual art. There's so much like in the visual art aspect that is the story. Like my favorite, a long time ago, I can't remember what book it was for. I think it was for another short story, but I got a review where the person was like talking about like how much he hated my art, which is like fine, it's not for everybody, but he was like, I really hate this artist's art, like style's awful, whatever. They were like, but I really like the pacing and mood of the story. And I was like, oh, so you like my art. You just didn't know that. Because again, that's like an entire impactful point of the visual storytelling that often is up to the page composition and the shot calls. And it has a lot to do with like the colors too will add a lot to like mood and that kind of thing. So it's really fascinating beyond just like the aesthetic of like, is this character design cool and did you get the perspective right? You know, there's also like a whole other like visual storytelling language that kind of goes into it that I is like, if you're doing your job right, probably not super noticeable, but that's the cool part about it.
No, I was gonna say that's such a great way of telling it, because like you said, if it stands out, then it's most of the time it's because it's and like was done poorly or just not as like, you know, seamlessly. But like you said, if it's not noticed as well, then you've done your job of not having it stand out, of having it be more free flowing. So it is an interesting, because you know, and I love like, and we'll get into that with a little bit more in a later section where like, you know, that process of getting the script and thumbnailing it. And again, like you said, especially with something like Author Immortal, where you at least get that bounce back and forth between you and the writer. But with something like this, I'm curious too, like, is this a quicker turnaround for something because it is a shorter, or is it still kind of like you have a similar kind of timeline, just you don't have to do as many pages?
That just kind of always depends on the publishing schedule. Usually, like again at this point, because I've done this job for so long now, I know like how fast I can turn something around, and so a lot of times either the publisher will come to me and be like, hey, is this deadline fine? And maybe it's close or maybe it's far away, and I can kind of decide yes, or they'll be like, how much time do you need? And I'll be like, this much time. Sometimes it just kind of depends. Like sometimes either the script or the contract or something has taken too long, or something has gone wrong on the production side. And so there's sometimes that it happens a lot of times with these, less with the longer ones, but with short stories where it's like, hey, we really need you to turn this around in 10 days. Is that cool? You know, that does unfortunately happen more often than I would like. Which again, on a shorter story is not so bad, because like you can crunch on something for like a minute. It's rough. Like, especially I've seen it happen either through the artist's fault or the publisher's fault, or the, you know, like things happen. But like on monthly books, it gets really hard because like that book has to come out every month. And so like if you get behind, it can turn, you know, and especially if it's like an ongoing series or something, it can get devastating pretty quickly. But I find, again, more often I think it can happen on shorter stories like this. More often on the, you know, longer things, even if they're coming out monthly, a lot of times you'll go into something with like a buffer. You'll have like 3 issues done, or, you know, however many issues done, so that way you don't catch yourself, hopefully. No, I mean, it makes sense. Like you said, it's all like a scheduling thing, but it's such an interesting, again, I think something that a lot of our consumers don't
really understand at any one point in time, unless it's again explicitly, said like, hey, I'm not just doing this book, or like, hey, I'm doing 2 or 3 books, or 2, 3 covers as well, or like this thing that needs to be done, like, because there's such a constant turnover, it seems, with your line, like, with comic artist and that line of work where you're just needing to get the thing done to get to the next project and do that next project. It's not like, this is your one sole thing you're focusing on and giving your entire time to. So
yeah. Usually, I feel like a lot of comic artists are usually working on more than one book. Just for timing of how stuff comes up, right? You could be in the middle of one book, and then a dream job is like, we need you now, and you're like, well, a lot of times it's also just to make the money work. You got to do a certain amount of pages, and then it is. I think what a lot of people don't. Not though. I think a lot of people do realize, but it's just like it just also, like if it's a 6-panel page, that one page has 6 individual illustrations in it. You're drawing a lot of stuff. And I'm not even drawing that like freaking like Jeremy Lawson and Jorge Corona's pages in my studio. You should see the backgrounds of that. Like they draw a lot of stuff. And so like it is for like what and then an issue is 22 pages or a graphic novel is 200 pages. And so it's just like it's a lot of work and it takes a lot of time. For something that then is read
consumed really quickly.
30 minutes while somebody poops. Which no shade, that's how comics like should be read, but it is just kind of funny, like the disproportionate like working time to ingesting time.
No, and it's such a wild, exactly, that difference. So
I would say if you're interested in this story, the name Patrick, I couldn't realize where I knew his name from, and I just Googled it, and he was the one that did the Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees.
It's another one that's on my list to read. I picked up because of the newest run that's currently ongoing. I've got the individual, but I've got the trade because I need to read the previous story first. So that one looks like it's so interesting, again, without like spoiling anything, but it just looks like such an interesting book. So
it is very interesting. It is horror, deceptively, but it's kind of like delightful. Like it's a delightful read.
That's the best kind of horror. When it's disguised as something else. So, but no, I definitely recommend checking this short story out because we're only showing 4 pages here, and that's why I threw up the spoilers, because it's a little bit of spoiler, these 2 art pages. But I really want to see how the story ends, just based upon just what little I know of it.
It definitely there's a big reveal.
It's I wasn't expecting it, which is always fun, like when it happens. So it was it's really, and again there's the other stories I still need to read in there as well. So that stuff is fun, to get that handful of, again, like that taste, kind of like we were talking about earlier, of like getting a little bit of different artists and different writers. So
now, Twilight Zone. We're just jumping genres here, but I think this is the one Zach brought up whenever he was on the show with us when we were talking about you, or maybe it was off the air, but he had mentioned the Twilight Zone, and he's like, because I feel like I love the Twilight Zone. That was one of my favorite things a few months ago on here. I went back and started doing a rewatch of it, but
I love the Twilight Zone.
Okay, I was going to ask if you were a fan of it.
I am. Again, I love, like, kind of like we mentioned, like anything that's sort of like creepy is like my jam. That kind of like creepy, unnerving, or supernatural, that like slow burn horror is like my favorite thing. And so the Twilight Zone does like such a unique form of that like horror storytelling. Tyler, kind of like how you're mentioning that there's like all these like different kinds or like subgenres in it, right? That is so particularly, like, again, it is just that like sort of unnerving feeling, right? Like there's not a lot of gore in their episodes. There's not even like a ton usually of like overt like monsters or what. It's just this sort of like wrongness presented by the situations. Unsettling. That's a great term. And again, that just sort of like creepy, it's kind of like that vibe when you see like dolls or things where you're like, there's nothing wrong with this, but like I'm not thrilled about it.
Not vibing,
I feel like is that kind of, and again, I just love that kind of creepy feeling. So who knows what you like, but so I was so thrilled when they approached me and were like, do you want to kick off the first issue of this Twilight Zone? And I was like, boy, do I. And again, Dan Waters wrote this issue, and I think he did such a good job in, again, nailing that vibe, that just sort of like unsettling, sort of wrongness of the situation without it being overtly, like gory or in your face. And so it again, another one that was just sort of a delight to draw. Another, I was really thrilled that they stuck with like the black and white theme too, to really kind of encapsulate that feeling and bring it home. So
it captures it, so well.
So yeah, this story, I don't know, spoilers, I guess, but is turn off your ears if you don't want to hear. But just it's kind of about like this medical experiment when something goes wrong and people's like entire faces and identities and everything are erased, and they kind of become these like blank sort of like dolls. And that was one of my favorite things, is I really wanted to, it's a static medium, but I wanted to try and capture this kind of like floaty way that they would move, that like kind of like if everything's been erased, you don't have a face, like you wouldn't, like you're like kind of that looseness of joints, like you wouldn't hold your head up properly, and that kind of like knocking about, because again, I feel like it gives that sort of like doll feeling that's a little creepy. So that, like conveying that kind of like motion and movement is always a really fun challenge in a comic medium.
That's true. Yeah, that panel to panel. Yeah, trying to capture that in like one panel, let alone like just get to give a little bit of that sense. So.
Well, I just made the mistake. I went to Artist Bullpen to see if this cover was available, and it is. So I was like, so.
I meant. I guess.
Do I try to grab it before the show ends? Because this is such a great cover to like go into the. It makes you feel like you're actually getting. Rod Serling should pop out of it.
I know. I love the door or the door and the eyeball. I mean, it's I can like hear the intro just playing in my head. So
yeah. The Twilight Zone. Yeah. That was playing in my head the whole time I was drawing it.
Did you have it on like the background? Yeah, while you were drawing.
I did. I watched a couple episodes while I was finishing this one.
I was going to ask you, what's your favorite episode?
The one I can never remember the name. I'm so bad at naming things, but the one where they're on. Because again, it was just so weird when they're on like the plane and like 5 people fall asleep and then they like wake up and everybody's gone, and they like land and nobody's there, and then you realize it's like these things that are like eating the paused reality, and they have to like get out of it before it gets like eaten. That one just always really sticks with me because it feels like a fever dream, like the kind of like whack thing that only your brain boiling would come up with.
I love it. I've heard about that one. I've never seen that one before. Like I knew what you're. I need to go back and watch that one. I mean, there's so many classics. There's very few that I think I haven't seen, but there was one I was watching the other night, and I told my wife, I was like, I've never seen this one before. I thought I had seen all of season 1, but it's such a fun show to rewatch, even if you've seen them a dozen times.
Author Immortal.
I know the name of the episode is The Journey to Author Immortal. We're like an hour and 10 minutes in.
You're taking a long road to get there.
Journey. It's like a Lord of the Rings journey.
Hey, it's a great journey. That's right. That's one of the fun things. I mean, I think that's what we at least try to go for in the show, is like, I don't know, like just having that discussion, because it's such an interesting thing, the artist journey and the comics you've worked, like you said, you've been now, 10 years now in the industry. And so, where you started and where you are now, and how you've grown and your influences and the things that have changed, the people you've worked with. So it's interesting with the stuff that it builds to, or like, I would assume projects, and correct me if I'm wrong, projects, that are kind of milestones or are big ones. I don't know if that's necessarily this one, obviously you can speak more to that, but no,
I actually think that this one was a big milestone. It was fun because it was, the very first published where I was like the full interior artist book that I did in my career was The Family Trade, which was by Justin Jordan. It was also an Image comic that I also fully watercolored. And so that was one of the delights of the Author Immortal, was I feel like it was like a full come around where it's like, I'm back at Image and back in full watercolor. Doing another kind of like fantasy book. And so it was really fun to kind of look back at like all the things I've learned, just about like my craft or the different things, and figure out like what I could funnel into kind of making this book the best. And then obviously I was a huge fan of Frank's writing before I got to work with him. I read again 5 Ghosts back when I was like in school, and it was another one of those of like, wow, this is like incredible comic storytelling. And so when he came to me with this idea, I was thrilled to work together. And yeah, it was just, again, another, Frank was so easy to work with. He really respected me as a collaborator. We we just get along really well as people, but also just had like a lot of, I feel like, similar vibes and things we wanted to achieve with the story. And he let me like take the reins in a lot of like the character creation or different things. You know, he'd write something in and I'd be like, Frank, you wrote this, but I'm gonna make it weird, make it kind of creepy. And he was like, whatever you want, which was really great. And it's always really fun when you work on a project like that where you know you really have the trust of your collaborator and you can kind of go nuts. Is always a good time.
Well, it was really cool too, because reading I think it was another interview I've written one, but him talking about how, you know, he had the idea for the story for a little bit and was working, and it just wasn't really kind of, you know, coming together until he saw your artwork, and then it was like things just started clicking and falling into place. Which I imagine, you know, that's that collaboration, you know, between writer and artist, where, you know, you just click, you find that person that you just gel with, their art influences you, and vice versa. So. It's cool to, you know, like you said, it's always nice because again, it only benefits the book, those kinds of collaborations that actually work, rather than you trying to butt heads. And Frank talked about that again. When you, as the writer, you're not trying to butt heads with the artist. You're trying to, you know, you find somebody you're going to work with because you trust their process and their style and what they're going for. So,
yeah, it's definitely, you know, there's, you know, all kinds of different comics, and there's ones where you have more freedom and ones where you have less, but it is always a little bit hard, you know, as a writer. I think you have to be open to like your vision is going to get changed, right? Because like no matter how descriptive you are, how well you write it on the page, I'm going to probably just envision something different because we are just two different humans with different brains. You know, but it's also the same thing, you know, as the artist, you also have to respect your writer enough not to just be like, I'm going to do whatever I want, you know, or like, and accept feedback. Like if somebody gives you notes, like, oh, this isn't quite what I envisioned, you have to, like, everybody has to be flexible. Like you have to have a certain amount of chill. And then same thing, like if you're a line artist and you work with a colorist, it happens almost always that like, as a line artist, you are probably envisioning certain colors for things or how the like color vibe of the book, and it is not going to be what the colorist does because again you are two different humans with two different brains. And that's when you just have to be like, that person is a professional, and even though it's maybe not how I would have done it, I have to trust you, you know, unless it's like muddy or unreadable or something. But that's also really like the fun thing about it, is especially if you're working with people who are talented and who you can trust, they're going to elevate your stuff, you know, like that's as it goes down the pipeline. A really good example of that in the Author Immortal, I mean, I colored it myself, but Haas lettered it, and bless Haas for being an incredible letterer, because it's not easy to letter over watercolor because it's super organic, and a lot of times it can just kind of look like digital letters over a traditional thing. And Haas blends it so seamlessly, and a lot of the actual like really cool like sound effects and things that are so well integrated in the art, it looks like I did them. I did not. Haas did them, and he's a genius. And so again, it's those things that it just kind of elevates the page. Kind of every step, as long as you kind of trust and hopefully get enough room to your collaborator to kind of like do their thing.
No, it's such an interesting point because it's something, again, kind of going back to that thing where it's like if you don't notice it, that's kind of like the job. And that's something where I didn't notice that reading, you know, the trade and going through and reading it. It didn't stand out to me until I started listening to interviews with you and Frank and talking about it. And then I went back and was flipping through. I was like, holy crap. I was like, yeah, this stuff feels so natural and so ingrained. And I love that process because I've talked with previous artists who we've had on where, you know, they'll draw certain words into the scene just because it just feels more, you know, rather than having the letterer do it or kind of vice versa. And it's such an interesting blend, especially I assume with something like watercolor, but like you said, it's so much more natural where digitally lettering it could stand out or make it, you know, not emphasize or just not blend as well. But this book does such a great job of doing that. So
yeah. And again, Sasha, who was our book designer, also I feel like did a really good seamless job both with the title treatment and then the actual physical print of the book, the extras and the layouts. And that's one of the really fun things about doing an image book, right? Is that you do everything yourself, right? So like Frank hired Sasha, Frank like hired Haas, bless Frank forever for making this book. But you know, like you are in an image book, you are like fully in the driver's seat. And it's fun because a lot of the other books I work with, since they go through publishers, I don't always get to directly work with the book designer. They're all generally like in-house and work for the publisher and do great jobs, but I just kind of get to see it when it comes out, and you're like, great. And so it was really fun to have like a direct line of contact to Sasha, as she, you know, designed the cover treatment or the title, and like, oh, can I play with this thing, or certain other things in the layout, that I feel like just came together really well. And again, it's fun to see everybody see the through line of style and kind of like get on this merry-go-round together.
No, like you said, I mean, it's such a, because it's the package as a whole. I mean, and like you said, it's something, and Frank talked about again, like wanting to do the book a service, because when you're creating something, you want somebody to, you know, get you know, like the trade in hand and go, oh, I've got something that feels nice, it feels collectible, you know, I want to own. I mean, the spot glossing on the front and back.
That's
I mean,
what I was going to point out. So that was all Sasha, and it was like, bless you.
It's just small touches, so like, you know, like over
you can see it. You can see the light catch it.
Yeah, but even like even on the back, I love like just like the title, just you know, Author Immortal there, like up, like it's
that's nice. Yeah,
it's such a, like you said, it's all part of it. It's all in service to the book. And I'm glad you're pointing them out, and that's why, you know, I wanted to write them too, because it's like, it's one of those things where I'd love to have more letterers on the show. I'd love to have more editors. Like, I want people who don't really get to talk as much, or don't get asked to, or, you know, not to say that it's like, it's just because it's, again, it's such an interesting job. It's such a different, you know, you're doing your part as the interior artist and coloring and stuff, but then they have to come at it afterwards. And again, like you said, still fitting within that style, but then elevating it or giving it, you know, that boost to just really, you know, sell the package as a whole. So
yeah, it is a full collaboration to make a comic, especially a successful comic. So
do you find, one question I was curious, or I guess I had two, sorry. So the first one was, when going about a book like this, because I imagine, and I'm asking this because art is personal. Art is generally, you know, personal for most artists, just like from what we pull from and everything. But when you approach a book like this with Frank, you know, this is their story, and you know, the thing that they're, you know, and it felt very personal reading it. When bringing your art like to it, do you, because I'm just trying to phrase the question in the way that I want, but do you worry, or do you think about like that, or like bringing, like, you know, what you can as an artist, or is it just like you said, it's like, oh, you're your own person, like you're going to bring what you're going to bring, you're not necessarily worried in a sense like of kind of overriding or taking over that original story, if you will,
fulfilling Frank's vision of what the story is.
Yeah, I guess that's a better way of
I do think, you know, like I always want to honor what my writer is trying to get across, especially like the emotional beats or whatever, because that has to do with the story and the point of the story, right? And so we'll, like, on one of the books I'm working on right now actually is a graphic novel. It won't be out for quite a while. It's another second book called Quiet Appetites, and I'm working with writer Casey Gilly. And there was a scene, and it's a pretty important scene to the book. And reading through the description, I was like, man, I'm having a really hard time visualizing this. It's like this weird, it's another horror book. So it's like folk horror, there's some like plant weirdness.
Okay.
And so it's gonna be really cool. But there's a scene that's like this. It's important, it's creepy, but the way it was, I was like, man, I'm not really. And so we got on a call, and luckily, because like I know Casey, and we have a friendship, and I think she trusts me. She was able to be like, okay, like let's set aside like what I wrote visual wise. Like, here's the point I'm trying to convey in this scene, and here are like the moments I think are important to show, and then like take those things and like go with God. You know, kind of like that, you know, like, okay, as long as I'm like, so again, a lot of times with my writer, it's like I'll think about a page and I'll try to be like, okay, what is the point of this page? Like, what is the writer really trying to convey this? And then how can I then build the page either in the layout or the mood or whatever to bring home that point to the writer or to the reader, right? And so I think that that's in the spirit of collaboration, that I do try to like be faithful to that. But I think I kind of get the sense that usually when I work on a book, most people, like, I'm thankful that like most of the writers or editors or people I've worked with like aren't divas, you know. And so most everybody, instead of thinking about like my story, everybody's thinking about the story,
right,
you know. And so like it's like it becomes like, even though the writer wrote it and I'm drawing it it's kind of like up here, and we're all trying to like do justice to the story, because I do think from the writer to the editor to the to the letterer, like I think, like you said about art being personal, I think everybody's putting their personal touch in it, whether it's the words or the arts or the letters, or the person editing it. That's just kind of the nature of storytelling. It's a human collaborative experience. Even listening to a story can be personal, like in the emotions you feel when you're hearing it and the different. So I think oftentimes when I'm working, I do feel like that instead of thinking about it like Frank's story, I'm thinking about it like the story. But in talking to Frank, I think Frank also thinks about it that way, where it's like we're all just trying to like do our best to make this really good story. I do like I guess maybe slightly egotistically. Once I do get a script, I do think about it as like this is my book. Like when I tell people, I talk about it how it's like my book. Like I obviously didn't write it, and I the stories are genius, and that genius comes from the writer. But because I'm responsible for telling it, and because usually the stories that at least I enjoy making, I get very invested in. And so like I've even had that I'm so invested in the story that I'll get to a point. I remember Matthew Klein and I went through this with Crashing, where like, in the final issue, I got the script and then I called him and I was like, you have this one character doing this, and that's not like, that goes against who they are. Like, that's not, because it's like,
that's great though. You're invested in it. So.
And that's the thing, is that like we all want it to be the best version it can be. And so I think in that sense it becomes very personal to me, because I'm taking an ownership of these characters and their story, and how the reader is going to interact with them, and how the reader is going to understand them. Like if there is a big misunderstanding, a lot of times it will be my fault if I didn't, express something clearly. So I think like that ownership makes it personal. And then I think again that just luckily I've been fortunate to work with writers enough who understand the collaboration, that like it's never about like their vision. It's just about like telling the best story.
Well, your analogy from earlier about telling a story secondhand as a writer, I mean, there's people that are really great at telling a story secondhand, and then there's people that just bomb at it every time. So you want to be a person that tells the story secondhand, that enhances the story rather than detracts from it. And I think that an artist, when it gets with a writer, and you can tell whenever it's like meshing really well, because it's the story is just so much better for the art that's in it. And I think that's an example. This book's a perfect example of it. Like what Frank told and what you put on page is just like the perfect collaboration to tell this story to. So I think anybody that picks it up will be very, pleased with what they're seeing.
And Frank gave, compliments too, like because speaking of being expressive, I mean, the expressive, the expressions themselves, the characters give in the story. I mean, the character work that you get out of these characters in the story is just, I mean, it just elevates it to such a level, that it's just really, and like you said, it makes sense because it's a collaborative effort. You're pushing the words that spoke through you, and like reading it and telling that story while also mixing in your own interpretations and everything. And it is, like I said, it is a very personal story. It's a very tough story to read in certain aspects, and reading these characters and I like it at one point in one of the interviews you talked about the dad character, again, like he's just kind of doing his best. Like he's not great, but he's also, you don't necessarily hate him. And that's such a, it's that human aspect. Again, that's what makes stories so compelling, whether it's, the superheroes and all that stuff, like that's the wrapper, but at the core, is that human element.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite things about the Author Immortal, actually, was, it was just fun to draw, as you've seen some of these pages, like some of the fantastical creatures and things like that design. But I feel like Frank really excels at it. You can see it in his other work too, but he does such a good job of writing, just those kind of like real feeling characters that, like, even in fantastical settings, they're rounded, right? They have good qualities and they're trying their best, but they also have these flaws or these downsides. And both Hector and Al, right, have their own battles they're going through, and they make mistakes, and they say things they don't mean, and they do things. And so that, like from the get, that was one of my favorite things with Hector as one of our main characters, is like kind of the quintessential sad dad a little bit, but like he just he's a flawed guy. He has screwed up a lot, but like he does love his kid, and he is doing his best, and he like is just having a hard time. And I feel like Frank did such a good job of writing this like character who has these real screw ups and flaws, but like you said, that you don't just like hate from the get-go.
Well, I think like it's, and again, I because again, I mean, I'm still young. I'm only 34, so like, there's still so much of a breadth of work that I've not seen from previous decades and stuff and whatnot. But I feel like it used to be more black and white, certain storytelling and methods and stuff. And I feel like we're getting more toward where it is gray. There's no, and that's my favorite storytelling is where you can have something like Breaking Bad, where it's like you find yourself rooting for the main character, even though he's the most horrible person like on the show by far. But it's because, like, again, like, you're seeing their side of the story, like seeing it through their eyes, kind of a deal, rather than if you were to get it from a different perspective, which I like about this, because this book, you do get those different perspectives from the different characters. Those, you know, you'll see that interaction and then go off with one character, but then go back and see the other character. And I found myself, it's like, you're like, you react a certain way, and then you get that other perspective. You're like, yeah, no, but it is. It's like, okay, well, you know, getting that, you know, storytelling method. So.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you can see that also like in a lot of like anime, especially like shonen anime, right? Used to be like the main character was just like usually like an idiot. You know, like it used to be like main boy character was dumb and strong and we all love like a himbo kind of. And now I feel like you're getting, you know, with you have it with like Demon Slayer or a lot of these other ones where you have these like main, especially like main young or like younger boy protagonists who are insightful and thoughtful and you know, strategize and are like emotionally intelligent. Or like My Hero Academia is another one.
I was, oh my gosh, I was like, you were gonna, I was gonna mention it if you hadn't, because I've got a whole shelf here just dedicated to My Hero. Like it's one of my favorites, and it's, and not to cut you off, so I let you continue. Go on.
He got excited. He got excited.
Well, no, but it has been really, and don't get me wrong, like I like Goku from Dragon Ball Z, like I love a himbo, I love a big dummy, but it's really it gives like this kind of more nuance and depth to these stories that the main character you are following, you know, has like a deeper, richer world and has flaws and insecurities and you know, sort of like deeper thoughts, or like well, of course, what's his face, the main character from Attack on Titan is another good example of that. Of like, Eren Yeager, where like
such a complex, like there's so much more
well, and like you said, like in the Breaking Bad, the sort of like descent into, you know, like you like he can be kind of a punchable character, but you're rooting for him and he's like the hero of the story, and then the like descent into villainy sort of is, you're like, oh.
Like I didn't see it taking I was like, I remember back in season 1 when I thought of you in a completely different light.
Hal from Malcolm in the Middle, that's what you thought of, and then all of a sudden you just deconstruct that.
It's so funny because this is just a short side tangent. It's funny because I overheard Vince Gilligan talking about how the reason he chose him was because of Malcolm in the Middle. And having watched Breaking Bad first and then going back to watch Malcolm in the Middle, I can completely see what he was saying of that funny, but also could be completely unhinged at the same time and just lose his mind. So I could totally see why he picked him for that role. I'm like, I would, while most would just go, and again, obviously it's easier in hindsight, but to go look at this character who everybody just views as this silly, dopey dad, and it's like, no, there's a lot more to his acting than kind of meets the eye. So, but that's like a side tangent thing.
Tyler has cosplayed as Heisenberg, so that's
it's true. I did shave my head and grow a goatee in college. So,
it's very passionate.
I was like, I'm going full out. Before we move on from this story, the only other one I wanted to ask was, I think it was Frank who said Author Immortal is about what happens when you outgrow a story you love, but it won't let you go. And I was curious if there's a story like that for you, that you've had that experience with, where you outgrew the story you used to love, but it won't let you go in that sense.
So yeah, I think especially in the kind of way that Frank was trying to tackle some like bigger, obviously some like real world like issues in the story, right? Is especially like that kind of outgrowing the story of like, you know, when you have a story that was really beloved to you, and that, you know, the story and the characters, they meant so much, they had an impact on your life, and then unfortunately in the sort of like don't meet your heroes way, you find out that the creator sucks. You know, like either just has like awful views or is a bad person, or, you know, in some cases is going to come out to be abusive. You know, I feel like we have all gone through this, unfortunately, for one property or another, right? You have something beloved, and unfortunately, somebody comes out as trash, and you're like, wow. But it is hard to, and it is, and I feel like that's a lot of like this leaving behind of this story, or like what you do with this property. And for me, the really big one that did it for me was that in high school, a book that like really, really impacted me reading it was Ender's Game. And then it wasn't until I was in college that Orson Scott Card is a big old homophobe and supports awful things like conversion therapy. And that was like, as a part of the queer community myself, was a really damaging blow for a book that I feel like was very formative to my youthful identity. And so you kind of have to figure out how to let those core memories be okay. You know, like I know a lot of people went through this with both like Harry Potter or a lot of Neil Gaiman series or whatever, where you're like dealing with both the sort of like betrayal of this and your very real adult morals and standings, but also these impactful works and like how they shaped you and what they mean to you, and not necessarily like how to like fully separate those, but like what you do with both those feelings and how to like hold it in you. And as Frank has always said, like we're not necessarily trying to answer that for anybody in this book. We're not telling anybody what to do. But it's just more, it's an interesting, it is like a topic that I think is prevalent obviously everywhere, and especially in the literary world, but I don't think it's a lot that like literature in a fiction way has like really started like touched on a lot. And I know that was important to Frank to kind of explore in this book in a fantasy setting. But so like again, that's not the main point of the book, but it's just sort of like an overarching B plot of like both in the sense of like again a writer betraying you, but then also even just like a book series that you held on to that defined everything, even though maybe it's not even about what that book series was about to begin with. You know, that like you put it on a pillar, right, where you're like, this is the best thing ever written, which like maybe it was when you read it when you were 15 or whatever, but like because you can't let go of that memory of it, nothing will ever compare, including maybe like your own life and your own work. And that's a lot of things that like Hector is dealing with in this story too. And I feel like that can also, especially as a creative person, become very daunting if you don't read enough stories or let certain things go. I feel like a lot of artists, sorry, this is now becoming a huge tangent, but I feel like a lot of comic creators that also happens too, not even necessarily in stories they've read that they can't let go of, but like their baby stories. So maybe like a story you came up with a lot of times when you were younger, and it was like, you know, when you were like 18, you were like, this is going to be my magnus opus, you know, and it's going to be 40 volumes and it's going to be whatever. And you can't ever let go of that story. And you feel like you're always chasing that story, even though that maybe that story, especially because you probably wrote it as a teen, maybe isn't even that good. And sometimes that will get in your own way of maybe the potentially stronger, better stories you can tell. I feel like that's a big creative thing that a lot of storytellers struggle with.
No, that's fair. Thank goodness I let go, because mine was Thorn, which was really just a ripoff of Aragorn with like Dragoon riders and stuff.
Oh, hey, I also had a ripoff Aragorn.
Yeah, I was like, man, this is great, and coming to all these and granted, I never like written. I wasn't necessarily into writing as much as I was drawing and stuff. But yeah, I can imagine that holding on to some of those, it acts more as an anchor. In a bad way, rather than letting you be able to go off and sail and find, like you said, something different or more. So. No, that's such a great point. So, I mean, it's such an interesting, like you said, it's not the point of the book, but again, it's one of those things that helps propel the relationship between Hector and Alan and everything forward. So it's such an interesting piece of what Author Immortal is. So, yeah, that was a great book. I was going to say, I think I have, so if you go to that link, and I don't know, I think we can copy and paste it, but you can get the trade paperback. And that should like point you. Obviously, there's like Amazon, other stuff, but like I'm trying to again go to your local comic store, get it through them, get it through a bookstore or something else. So, but yeah, volume 1 is out. It's really great. I hope that Frank gets to tell the whole story that he wants to tell, and you along with him. So, I would definitely look forward to seeing more. So.
But we had one other book to talk about, but before we get to that, let's go ahead and let's go ahead and jump to the life of the cycle of a page, because it focuses on Author Immortal. So I want to, before we get too far away from that story, this was just something that you had posted on your Instagram account that me and Tyler both caught wind of, and we're like, oh, this is awesome, because we love this is the whole reason we love doing the show, is seeing like the behind the scenes or the director's commentary of how a book gets made. So this was a perfect example. Can you kind of walk us through this a little bit, even though it's not
Yeah.
moving? Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. So yeah, the life cycle of a comic page is that there's a lot of steps that goes into writing a finished page. So on the screen here, you can see the first one is, I think this is like page 4 of issue 4. The script that how I get it from Frank. So it's usually like page 4, panel 1, kind of description of what's happening there, dialogue, panel 2. And so as I read through the script, I am actively trying to visualize, right, like what the shots are going to look like, kind of where, even though it's not a movie, in comics we use all the same terms, so like where the camera's at, you know, kind of what the composition of the scene is, and then also what the composition of the page is. And so the first thing I'm doing while I'm reading it is like kind of doodling, as you can see on the side there, like I'm doodling
Yeah.
the little layout, or a lot of times, like this one was actually pretty succinct, but I'm doodling the composition of each individual panel, and sometimes trying out a couple of them, or, you know, trying out a couple of like body language things, just so I can get clarity in my own mind of what I want it to look like. And then once I kind of landed like in my, like I can visualize it in my brain, then I go to actually draw the thumbnail that I will then share with my collaborators. So that's that first little image there. So I just work with pencil. I do everything traditionally because I'm bad at the computer. And so I have like, it's just like printer paper that has like 8 of those little, or 9, whatever, I think it's 9 of those little squares on them. They're probably about like maybe like an inch by 2 inch by an inch and a half kind of. And so, yeah, I just quickly like draw in the panels and the kind of like environment and figures, just so that way I then send usually either an issue, or if it's a full graphic novel, sometimes I will lay out the entire graphic novel, which is a trip, but that's what I'm doing right now. It's a lot of brain activity. But then I will send those like 22-page issue to my writer or my writer and editor. And so that's usually like the first pass. So then they can look at and see how I am thinking to visualize the pages. And the benefit of that step is that they're done really quickly. And so any feedback or things that major changes that need to be made can also be done really quickly, right? Because I haven't dumped hours into like drawing it or inking it. And so this is mostly just to make sure like we're all on the same page. Like, does the storytelling, is it clear and does it make sense? So like, can the editor follow like, okay, this is flowy. Did I hit all the points? Did I misunderstand something? You know, sometimes the writer will come in and be like, oh no, like what I meant was this thing, you know. We can just kind of clarify everything at that step. Then once that's approved, to kind of see if thumbnail is into the actual drawing of it. So I usually do make perspective grids digitally, and I print them on the back of the piece of printer paper, just because that part is faster. And then I draft in a lot of my underdrawing with like a red pencil, and then I use a mechanical pencil to kind of put in the more like the fine details and clean things up. From there, that page will get scanned in. I'll remove the red underdrawing, and I'll adjust anything, you know, if somebody's head's too big, or if things need, or a lot of times I'll like take the entire thing and like squish it down to the corner to make more room for lettering, because sometimes I'm not always the best about planning lettering space. And so I'll make those kind of adjustments because, again, it's just a little bit faster than erasing and redrawing the whole thing. Yeah. And in comics, speed is the name of the game. So from there, once the pencil is done, and again, I'll usually, at that step, I will also send it to my writer and editor just to make sure everything looks kosher. Because again, the sooner we catch things, the easier they are to fix. Because then from this step, I will usually then ink it. So I will print the page on the back of a piece of watercolor paper, and then I use a light box to ink on top of it. That step obviously isn't shown here because I watercolor on top of the same page.
Right.
The other step that's not shown here is that usually, especially for full color books, I less so at this point, because I think at this point, again, because it was just kind of Frank and I, it was our editor, but less in like a licensing approved way. At this point, they were just like, we trust you. So I just kind of would move to colors. But a lot of times, especially if the project is new or it's a license thing, I will do like what I call like a digital color comp. And so it's like, I will quickly, either in Photoshop or the iPad, just like throw in the colors I'm thinking for everything. It looks crazy because it's not like done in a designed way, but it's just because if the editor is like, oh, that thing shouldn't be blue or something, they need to tell me now, because once I paint it with real paint, it's much harder to change. So then after that, then I will take and I will paint with watercolor over the inks on the page, and then same thing, I'll scan it and clean it up and format it and then send it off to the book designer or the publisher or whoever is the next stage of that letter.
That's awesome.
That is a great tutorial about how to make a comic. So you make it, you make it sound so flowing, but it's such a process.
It's going, you gotta, especially with monthly books, like you're keeping it going. But it is just, I think, a little bit more, when I first started making comics before I knew anything about comics, it was the same way I kind of thought that you wrote stories. You were just like, you just sat down and drew it, and then it was done. And it was the same way that I thought, like, writing a book or story of any kind, you just sat down and were like, once upon a time, and then you until you were like the end. And it's like, no, things have structure. Things have steps, and much like a 5-paragraph essay in school or whatever, if you write an outline to a story, it will help you. And so the layouts and these kind of steps are kind of like the outline to your art, so that way you have a roadmap, and you don't completely bone yourself and then have to change a bunch of things in the final.
Well, Tyler and I are both art collectors, and this is one of the things we've talked about is like the preliminary stuff, the preliminary works, the little thumbnails, that kind of stuff. We love like buying that and owning that just because it's part of the creative process of what you get for the final page. So I know a lot of artists that we've talked to, and the ones I've seen talk in different shows are like, no, I don't. I usually trash those, or I don't do anything.
Yeah, I guess I've never really thought about that. People would be interested in the process of that. I think the one fun thing is that, like, for my originals, for anybody who's interested, on the back of the page is that I print the pencils, so you do get to see at least the pencils, with everything ruled out and whatnot. Is usually directly on the page, but I've never, which is actually funny because, like, I also love process stuff. Like I would also be interested in owning process stuff like that, but I've never thought about that before.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, because it's so hard to find like pencil work, like especially nowadays, it's like you'll just find the ink pages, or in your case, like the final watercolor. But like for instance, like with Matteo Scalera, like I didn't know like he does like decent size like prelims, and he had done a few for like I Hate Fairyland. I know, and I was like, holy crap, these are not prelims. These are like, I was like,
they're like finished.
I'm like, this is a totally different piece. And so it was really cool to get that, because I love that process. I love being able to see, especially Russ. I mean, it's like it's almost like Disney, like the before and after, the digital age of, like, before it was like you get the rough pencils and you get all the edgy, sketchy lines in their animation. And then it was super clean and stuff, and there are people who prefer that, but I miss that reflection of the process, if you will, into the final piece, rather than just the pristine final piece. So definitely super cool to see stuff like that out in the wild. So
absolutely. But we will jump back now. I hated to skip over this because I wanted to, we had a nice flow going, but this is You Belong Here. You had hinted about this a little bit earlier.
Last
talked
book,
about the process for it.
Yeah, so this was my first time working with First Second and doing like just a big graphic novel all in one go. Before that, I had worked again mostly on the direct market side, so with like Image and actually I take that back. I did Swamp Thing Twin Branches was a graphic novel that I did with DC, but the creation of it, because we kind of did it in chunks, kind of felt like the issues weren't coming out, but I feel like that is sort of still how we did it, so it felt a little bit different. Where like You Belong Here, it was just like, is a 250-page graphic novel, so she's a biggin. And then they were like, and here's your deadline a year from now, just one date. It was like, oh boy, there's so many ways
that up though. That seems so, you see it's way down the road, but it's going to be here faster than.
And you definitely you can bone yourself so easily with that, because you don't have like a manager. There's nobody keeping on you. And I'm a chronic procrastinator, so what I had to do was like put check marks in for myself, where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna lay out the whole book, I'll give myself this much time to do it. And then I did do the book in like, I think I did in like 30 or 40 page chunks. I can't quite remember, because at first I was like, maybe I'll just pencil the whole thing, and then my attention span is small, and I was like, I can't do this, I'll kill myself. Like, so I was like, I'm gonna do, because you have to feel like you're getting something done. That's the hard thing sometimes when you're doing it all one step, is like you don't have that like feeling of checking stuff off. So I did it in chunks, and then just also telling my editor, like, this is when these chunks will be due, to have like some accountability was key. And then again, that just comes down to like the sort of industry thing of just like, I know realistically what I can complete in a day, you know. And that was something I had to learn early in my career the hard way, that I feel like a lot of us in comics do, is that like when you start out, you're eager and you want to say yes to everything, so you make your schedule based on what you can do on a good day. But they're not all good days, and then you get catastrophically behind, or catastrophically burnt out, and or both. And then usually you have to like do your, which hopefully you only have to do once, but where you have to eat your big piece of humble pie and like go to your editor and be like, hey, remember how I said I could do this? I can't. And then from there, you realize that you have to start planning your schedule on what you can do. Ideally, you should plan it out on what you can do if they're all bad days. But sometimes that's not feasible. But at least it has to be on like a medium day, like at least what you can just achieve.
Yeah, find the average.
And you do that. You know, again, I've worked in the industry long enough that I know my own rhythm, and I know kind of what, if I need to sit down and make myself work, what I can churn out. So that helps.
True.
But yeah, so this was definitely the longest book I have worked on. It again was written by Sarah Phoebe Miller, who is wonderful, and she wrote. She was an editor at DC for quite a long time, and now she is, I think, editor-in-chief or head editor at Boom. Sarah, sorry if I'm getting that title wrong, but she's a big deal. But it was great to work from her script because again, she was a phenomenal writer, but also had worked as an editor for so long that it was just like, it was a really clean script, like it was well paced. Not only was it my first time working on a book this long, but it was also my first time kind of in this genre. So this book is young adult slice of life. You follow our main character Essie, and it's in her last year of high school, and so it's got that kind of turbulent moment in high school where like your whole life is kind of getting turned upside down. Like you're about to move away from home, all your friends are leaving, you're dating somebody. Are you going to do long distance? Are you going to break up? You know, it's just kind of like everything that you've known to stable is like about to get upheaved in a big way. And so it's just kind of about, and she's got some family drama and things happening too. So it's just kind of about like dealing with all that while still trying to like be who you are and like be the like young adult that you are becoming. And just kind of like a lot of those changes. So it's a really interesting story. I wish there was a book like this when I was a senior in high school, because I feel like it would have felt very seen. Because again, it is just kind of this like very exciting but also like pretty hard time. So same thing. I think Sarah did a very good job of writing a lot of like complex characters who have a lot of nuance, who have a lot of like different emotional things that they're handling in a really like just like solid and very realistic way.
Well, I will say Sarah Phoebe Miller is currently the editorial director at Boom.
Editorial director. So I knew it was a big title.
I know. Wanted to make sure, give her credit. Yeah. So this is one I didn't get to do as much research into it, but I was glad that based on your synopsis, it's definitely one that I want to pick up.
Definitely. Obviously, being young adult, it skews for a little bit younger reader than all of us in our still young but slightly riper age. But I still think it's just like it's a good character book. And same thing. It was fun to draw. It was a departure from my kind of horror fantasy kind of like weird stuff that I draw. But another thing that I really enjoy drawing, which I know Tyler you kind of mentioned in the Author Immortal, but is like that character acting, is like character emotionality, and expressiveness and interpersonal things. And so there was like lots of room to play with that in this book, which was a good time.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I love just seeing like. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was just going to say on the age thing. Even though I'm 44, fixing to turn 45, I have 2 teenagers, and I have a son that's about to be a teenager in a few years. So these type of stories I like reading because it's something that's relatable. And something that we can also hop in that machine in the back of our head.
That connects you back.
Teenagers again. Yeah. So I mean, they're very, very fun to read and very
good reminders.
Yeah. But sorry, Tyler. There you go.
No, I was just going to say that again, even just from like these few pages, again, I always love panel layout or setups where stuff breaks the panel, like the reads on the top left there, or even to like the right, like again, just having that as like the background, just again, it just adds to that feeling. It's almost like, because it's funny because I'm a big movie goer. And I was always specific with the seat that I sat in. G9 was always my seat I'd sit in. And my partner was always like, I want to sit closer up. And I was like, oh, I don't like this. I hate this. Now I'm like, No, I understand it, because again, it's that thing of rather than viewing it the box that it is, you're viewing it close. You're immersing yourself more, and I find that when this kind of stuff is done with comics, it's that same thing where it immerses me more. It makes it like it's almost like I can like picture myself in the scene rather than just going, "Oh, this is a box." Like I'm viewing through a window.
Yeah, it's reaching out to you almost. I mean,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
becomes 3D.
exactly.
Yeah, so
Yeah, that's been one of the things that I've been trying to work on a lot in my work. A person who's a huge inspiration of mine is Rosemary Valero O'Connell, who did the art for Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me, and has a short story collection that's called, I believe, Don't Go Without Me. They do a really great sci-fi short that's called What Is Left, but they are an incredible storyteller, like especially of the comic medium. And reading their book was so enlightening because I feel like similarly, I had previously in my work been really, and I still do to a certain extent, but some of it I'm trying to shake more and more, but gotten used to thinking about comics as just a still frame movie, right?
Yeah.
But that comes with a lot of restrictions that comics doesn't have to have, right? Like then you're thinking about set pieces, like, okay, this is a kitchen, so like pots and pans, and this is the space you fit into. But actually, comics don't have to do that. Your panels or what's in them or what's around them don't have to be anything that you're actually seeing visually on camera, and that's the freedom of comics. And Rosemary Vio does a really excellent job of that. And there's ways that you can do that also then can really inform the mood of your story, I feel like, in a really unique way to the comic medium. And then also the other thing that she does is she does a really good job of designing, again, those panels in a way that tells the story, but not based on just what you're seeing beat to beat with your eyeballs. And then also designing it so like the storytelling is clear on the page, but also that like the composition itself makes that page a work of art.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
She's really, really good. If you guys haven't seen her stuff, you should check it out because it is pretty astounding, the I feel like type of storytelling she does.
Because it's definitely something that I would love to look more into, and it's something again I'm noticing more and more frequently. I find with storytelling, because again I think it's I think it was this thing of, especially with like the big two where things are done a certain way, but there's so much more independent work being created, and finding stuff like Jonathan Wayshak's Cul-de-sac and what he did with his panels and that, like again, it just blows me away because, like you said, it just goes to show what the medium can do. Like, how far you can kind of push it into the storytelling.
Or like Jesse Longerman is another one who does, I feel like, a really good job of like utilizing comic medium as its own storytelling rather than just like a still frame movie. So things that I would also like to work on. But especially in this book, because I feel like you had a lot of like these kind of atmospheric moments that I was able to like, okay, how can I think about this compositionally to either bring the reader in more or like build kind of a mood so you can be more immersed in what the scene is happening, and that was really fun to be able to play with.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, like you said, it's just one of those things that again it just enhances the artwork, in my opinion, both consuming it, but also, like you said, is purchaser of original art, of going, oh, like this is a whole piece. It's not just like one panel or something. It's like, wow, this is a piece of artwork in and of itself. So yeah, definitely need to check out the story. Definitely need to check out First Press too, because you've mentioned them, and they're new to me. I'm not familiar with them before your work, and you said you got a new book you're doing with them as well.
Yeah, so First Second does like again, they're the graphic novel imprint of Macmillan Publishing, so they're like the what we call like the book side rather than the direct market side. So they're just doing graphic novels, so like less the single issue stuffs, but they have a bunch of like really interesting stories. They run a pretty big gambit. Before First Second did do adult comics, but I feel like they had more of a focus on young adult and middle reader. Now they have opened their kind of like same company or like sister imprint that's called 23rd Street. And so First Second will focus more on YA middle reader, and 23rd Street's going to do adult comics. But just like really interesting graphic novels and like art pieces that, again, because it's a graphic novel, they tend to be a little bit longer, and so it's kind of fun because you have that decompressed storytelling and that kind of different pacing because you're not trying to slot it in like 22-page chunks, which has been both really fun to work on and really lovely to read. Again, that the young adult book by Rosemary Vio drew that as called Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me was through them, I believe. But the new one I'm working on is, again, a great genre departure from this one, but it is still that kind of like slow building, creepy. You still do like have a lot of like family dynamics and that kind of things. It's just with like some plant body horror and darker themes.
I
But
love
same
how
thing,
you're
like that
selling
one is
this
in
book.
yeah.
This book sounds great. Yeah.
If
So,
you like horror, yeah.
yeah.
Like I feel like if you like A24 horror films, you're probably really gonna
Oh
like
gosh.
I'm
this
gonna need
book,
to
which
get
is
this for
called
my
Quiet
partner
Appetites.
because that's
Yeah,
her
that's
whole
my
like shit. That's right up her alley. So
my
I'm like,
wife too
yeah.
loves horror. So
My
yeah.
goal, because this one's gonna be full watercolor, and so a lot of the scenes where like some like kind of messed up stuff is happening, I want to draw and paint like so beautifully and so lushly that you're like
Yeah.
almost invited in while you're also like, my God,
yeah, that's
something messed
perfect
up
way
is
to like.
happening here.
It's inviting, yeah, but like what you're
Yeah.
walking into is yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
entirely
goal.
different picture.
Yeah, that one's called Quiet Appetites. I'm laying it out now. I
Quite appetites.
probably won't finish drawing it till next year, and then First Second does like it goes into post production for like 18 months.
Oh,
So it probably won't come out till like I don't know, like 2029. But when it does, it's
Well,
gonna be cool.
when it launches, you are more than welcome to come back on here
I
and
was gonna say I need
preview
to
I'll
like
take you
set
guys
a
up on
timer
that.
or something. I need
Yeah,
to like
so-
I
Yeah.
need to alert keep me
Yeah, no,
reminded.
most
So.
definitely. Well, Ryan had a question. I want to skip back because this is kind of the opposite of your Briar cover where they turned it into a virgin variant and you had that space up there you could have moved
Uh-huh.
up. Well, the kind of the opposite. Whenever you lay your watercolors down, and then
Mhm.
his question was, let me pull it up so I don't butcher
Yeah.
it. But are you ever really like, I like that bookcase though, when dialogue gets put over something that you've worked hard on doing the detail on. So
Yes. That happens a lot. Now, when that does happen, especially when it's like lettering getting put over it, I have nobody but myself to blame because
yeah,
the letter like has to use the space available to them. Like it's over the either that bookcase that I do think is really cool or like the character's face, So it's like
Mhm.
jokes
The
on me.
bookcase. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's also I'll do that sometimes where I'll get like really carried away in like the intricate dry brushing, but I'll realize it's like in the bleed margin, like it's
Yeah.
gonna get chopped,
Yeah,
and
it's
you're
gonna
like,
get
Yes,
well,
cut
yes.
anyways.
I've done
Uh-huh.
it to myself. But yeah, I do sometimes get like really into little details that are never going to make it to the final reader's eyes, and that always is a little bit of a bummer.
But that's a great thing about buying original art is if
Yes,
it
that
doesn't
you get
matter
to see
what's
the
on
whole
there,
thing.
you can
Mhm.
own the whole. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That
And
is
I
true.
know it,
you're
it is. I've had that happen before where like something I was like, oh, because that was covered and I just never even realized that was
Mhm.
yeah.
underneath. Yeah, because you wouldn't known unless you have that original
Or
art.
like my
So
favorite is like a couple original pages I own that are from comics that came out in like the early 2000s or something where
Mm.
people were just doing a little bit less digitally, and you realize that like there's an entire other panel glued over, like they were like, oh,
yeah,
I screwed up, so I'm going to redraw that panel, so they redrew it, but then they like glued it to the original.
yeah,
If
I
you like
love
hold
that
it to the
stuff.
light, you can see the other one under it. I love that
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
that's
Like old paintings where it's like, oh, there's like 3 other paintings underneath this one painting. Like,
Or like
who'd have ever
like what I
thought?
imagine most of like Daniel Warren Johnson's originals look like, because I don't know if you've ever
Mm,
seen his live
yeah,
stream. He
mm-mm.
like beats the page into submission with ink, kind of. So
yeah.
half the time he's like inking and then like whiting that out and then inking on top of it and then whiting it. Like it's a
Well,
really impressive process. And I'm like, I bet those
Yeah.
originals are so cool because they're
I've
so
got one
layered.
of his. I've got one of his Transformers page on the wall over
Oh,
there, and
really?
there's ink coming off the side of it. I mean, there's like marks on the side of it. Just there's so much chaos in it, but he
Yeah.
does it in a way that it makes perfect sense. Like when
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
see the image. So,
that's awesome.
but I guess that we'll go to the plug section, which is
I was
Tyler. You
saying,
want
yes,
to take
this is
this one
just
off?
where our section where we just plug, your socials, things
Oh,
where
yeah.
people can reach you and everything and stuff.
Mhm.
Again, we like getting as many eyes and on all that stuff as possible. So, again, you're represented by Artist Bullpen. There's again,
Mhm.
we've talked about it, but there's so much artwork that you can go on and purchase covers, pages. Again, there's a little bit of everything. Author Immortal, other stuff. I Hate Fairyland. We brought it from earlier. So,
Mhm.
if
Yeah,
anybody's
both
interested,
just
who's
ink and
watching,
full color. Yeah.
yeah. So,
And
Yeah,
I will say,
lots
if
of
you,
good
oh,
stuff on there.
sorry,
Oh, sorry. No, I was just saying there's
no,
lots of good stuff and lots of other good artists on Artist Bullpen too. So
yeah.
definitely worth checking out.
and if you want to go on there, and you've got a couple more days, there's an option on there for shipping. If
Oh,
you want to have it delivered to Heroes Con, that way you
Oh,
can
yeah.
yes.
the
Thank
art
you. I
you can.
totally forgot. I meant to do that. I meant to bring up the commission stuff. So thank you. I appreciate you bringing that up, Dustin. So yeah, I
Yeah,
definitely wanted to get that mentioned out there as well. So
yeah,
Yeah, I unfortunately will not be attending Heroes Con. I had shoulder surgery, which is why I'm in this.
yeah.
So no shows for me for a while. But yeah, Zach and Sam are going to be there with a collection of things. And yeah, if you pick anything up and want to pick it up there, they can arrange that. And they'll be there with some other really great artists. I'm bummed to miss it. It's one of my favorite shows.
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
it's
hopefully next
yeah.
year we can meet you there. That
I was
we're,
gonna
Yeah.
say
we're
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Which also, this is something I didn't know. Tyler brought this up, and just
I
with Gumroad.
just found this, and again, I'll plug anything and everything kind of a deal. But I mean, I love Gumroad and I love digital collections for sketchbooks and stuff. So yeah, I saw that you had your sketchbooks on here, which I thought was really cool. So I wanted to plug those. So
yeah, thanks. Yeah, I have not these slightly different versions of these, but I have these in person usually at my shows that I sell. But yeah, since I'm not doing these shows this year, or if you haven't been to any, you can get these digital collections, and they're just again just kind of straightforward as they sound. They're just various compilations of sketches I've done over generally the time period of a few years that's in there.
Yeah, no, I mean, and it's such a cool, like you said, I love having the physical, but kind of like we talked about earlier with like comic books and stuff. Like I love having like copies of like art books on digital because it's like talking with Derek Loffman, he said like I'll bring it up, for inspiration, like just pull it up and look at something and sketch something or whatever it is. So
yeah, I have that same thing. A lot of my favorite sketchbooks or art collections I have usually both in physical and digital for that reason, because like the physical is like beautifully printed and I will look at it at home, but a lot of times it's like, oh damn, I need to reference that, and so yeah, I'll have a digital copy on my iPad that I can go through.
That's awesome. I'm going to be picking these up. I got to get these. So again, I write the QR codes. Again, I don't know if anybody uses these. I do these for ease of use, but I also plug in the websites into the comments. So if people are old school, then that's fine. If you want to scan it, that's fine too.
I like the QR codes. I like the effort Tyler puts into them. I
like the tech. I think it's cool. I think it makes it easier. But a lot of people are watching on their phone, so I get that too. They're like, how do I scan this if I'm using my phone to watch it?
You'll find a way if you want to.
But just regular socials, Morgan Beem, that's where you can find you at on, Instagram. I've linked your link tree here. So again, if you scan that, it takes you and it'll give you links to, the Patreon, Instagram, Gumroad, all that kind of stuff. So, and then as well as Artist Bullpen, it's on there. So
thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. Like I said, I can't remember. Somebody was like, I think it was Derek who was giving me like the plug. I was like, I don't know. I was just trying to come up with something.
No, that's appreciated. Or you could plug your book or show.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's silly. It's on par for our show. So
yeah. Well, before we let you go, this has become one of our favorite sections for artists, because our favorite things of the week: Raindrops on Roses and Whiskers on Kittens, The Sound of Music. We all love that song that we can't sing. Copyrights ending in 2055, I think. So if we're still on, you'll hear me sing it for the first time. Yeah. So
any day now.
As our guest, we always allow our guest to go first. And I'll let you say this name. I tried practicing it, and I'm not even.
Atarashigako.
Oh Lord, I would not have gotten anywhere close to this. So,
means new school. I think the band's technically called New School Leaders. They're great. They're like this Japanese pop band, I guess. Like pop kind of alternative band, and they're so weird. I discovered them just like on YouTube. One of their videos came up where they're essentially like, again, they're in these like very classic. Sort of I feel like 80s or 90s like schoolgirl outfits, and they in the video I saw, they're like almost like giant kaiju. They're like coming through the city, as like giant people chairs. So it's like they're just so like weird and like interesting, and they take I know a lot of like cues, I think both in sound and in some of the dance moves from like some traditional theaters in Japan, or traditional theatric movements, and I just like really, as you'll see in this and the other favorite things I recommended, I'm just really into like weird over the top stuff right now. I feel like we are not committing to weird to our full potential, especially in like the United States or the United States comic market in particular. Like I feel like we can get a lot weirder, and it can be weird, silly, whimsical, or it can be weird, dark and serious. But like we should all go further into weird. And so I'm really into. In the last few months, I feel like I have come upon, both in just seeking out and also just sort of organically, just like really weird stuff that you can just tell people are like really passionate about, and the only reason that these things exist is because somebody's like, I don't know, I just really wanted to make it. Same with this band. Like that was one of like the deep lore things on Reddit, is I guess I don't know a ton about other like J-pop bands, but a lot of times they're I think kind of like Korean pop bands, like put together by like a a company or something. And I guess these four just sort of like organically came about on their own. Like nobody knows like how
I
like
love
the rumor is they like met in a grocery store one day, but I don't know if that's true. But they like you can just tell like this is like entirely like their vibe and like their choice, and they're really into it. And all their songs are just delightfully weird. The videos are over the top and weird. They have this one about like it's like about like bodybuilding, and then they have these like muscle dude doubles who are also in the schoolgirl outfits, and it's just it's delightful. So really into their music right now.
well, your next two things too are like two different spectrums of the weird.
Yes.
This one, I saw this, and I went down a wormhole with it, like a rabbit hole.
I'm so glad.
It was like I want to get this because it's just so odd,
cool and odd. So I discovered this. So Vermis, for those of you who don't know, is an official game guide, and like an intense, like there's so much work in this game guide, like an intensely well-made, well thought out game guide to a game that doesn't exist. And I fell on this actually because I watched I think the YouTube channel is Sniper Wolf. Forgive me if that's wrong, but I think so. And he does an entire YouTube video breakdown about fake video games, about like people who make art, game guides, environmental designs, whatever things for games that don't exist. And it's so cool because it's such just like a love of creation, right? You're doing all this, like this work firm is like Plastaboo obviously like sells copies of this or whatever now, but Plastaboo has also done a whole bunch of interesting art, but they do a bunch of like other fake game stuff, and you can tell they just do it for the love of making that. Like they just love games, don't have a game studio, so maybe can't make the whole thing. So they're like, I'm just gonna make cool aspects of games. And it's just that like all these artists love this stuff so much that they just like this exists for no other reason than the joy of it existing. And that is also like more stuff that I like again, we need to commit to the weird and then just do the weird thing because you really want to do it.
Different level of fan art, so it's just like the next level. Like
and especially it is like a next level of fan. Oh my god, you guys should watch this video, because some people do like entire like pilot like animated trailers. Like so much work goes into some of these for a game that doesn't exist. And again, just devotion. For the devotion of it. And I think especially sometimes as somebody who, I love drawing and I love comics, I always will, but because it's my job, I feel like sometimes, and Tyler, I'm sure this happens to you too, like you get caught up in the jobness of it. Like it's something you have to do, but also you're concerned about, will this sell well? Is this acceptable enough? Like professional quality, is this to the standard of whatever? Will the licensor approve? And like you can miss out kind of on the like, I just wanted to make this weird thing. And you're like, now it exists in the world, and that was the goal. And I feel like if a lot of us could like shake off, which is hard to do, obviously, jobs making money, but like some of that and just go back to again making the really weird stuff that like you just want to do, we would have such a richer breadth of things to get into. So.
No, 100%. I mean, it's like you said, I even if it's something that I'm like, okay, I maybe don't get it, but it's like, it's just the respect for, like you said, the passion and craft that goes into something like this. Cause like you said, the only reason it exists is because the person just they just willed it. They just wanted it to exist kind of a deal.
So Vermis now has 3 or 4 volumes. I can't remember if they just kickstarted the 3rd or the 4th volume. But it is like this just intensely and beautiful kind of haunting, dark fantasy game that I would imagine is sort of like a role-playing game. And so you have like character pickers and descriptions, you have different levels, you have like guides to get you through things. So you are learning about the story of this game through the game guide, and it is like dark and haunting and entirely original and really interesting. And like even again, I think on the cover there's like fake like Nintendo sticker, or maybe it's on the back cover. There's like again, even just like the commitment to like the design of the book to look like an official game guide.
Forsaken edition, like just like the small touches. And it's like if somebody were to see this on the book stands, they're like, oh, what is that? And it's like, oh, it's just it's just something they came up with.
And so like going through it is just awesome. And again, it is so epic, and you can see how much like time and love and thought went into this thing that it's hard not to be sucked into it when you're reading it. Like you will really experience that. So 10 out of 10, super into.
A genre I did not know existed that like it made perfect sense when I saw it.
Like you said, a rabbit hole you could go down.
Oh sure.
So good.
Oh yeah, I'm like so into it right now.
That is awesome.
Now we like to do something on here. The Jimmy Kimmel, the unnecessary censorship. So there we go.
That's fair. When I threw this one out, you guys, I was like, I'm not sure if we can put this on our stream. So yeah, Rebecca Kirby, Rebecca, on Instagram, is just a really phenomenal artist. They do all kinds of interesting illustrations and things, but recently they're doing this comic that is just on Instagram, and then they sell shirts based off of it that I'm definitely ordering one. That, as you can see from this, where it says Madam Beef, Pop Idol of Earth, it is these like big titty muscle mommy like wrestler.
Yeah, that's how you described it in your email.
It's true though. This is exactly what they are. But it's like this young, I think she's like a scientist. She's like this kind of like noodly, thin, like stick figure-esque character named Pippa discovers Madam Beef, and they like recruit her. It's like Madam Beef, Big Milk, and there's one that's a nun, but I can't remember. Oh, what is it called? It's like Sexual Grief is her name. And we're all big titty muscle mommies, and they're like these like superhero kind of ladies, and they recruit the scientists because they have to like save the world from I can't remember if it's from, they might be saving the world from sexual grief, I can't remember, but they're just unhinged. Like you can tell she was just like, I wanted to draw some weird stuff, and I did, and I sold weird t-shirts based on it. And again, we all need to be doing weirder things. It is so delightful just to be like, you read it and you're like, what? It's
like you never know what's going on in somebody's house. Like yeah.
It's so fun. So definitely, again, all these, which you guys definitely cannot show most of them here, but and they're
no, I
like,
picked out a good one. I picked out
safe. They're like safe for work. Like there's no like bits, but it's edgy.
If someone looked over your shoulder while you had
they would definitely be like, dude, what?
Like,
there's some questions being asked.
Sexual Grief's character as a big titty muscle mommy. It has like a weird nun garb, and the shirt that Rebecca made for her is like her flexing, and then on top it says "No Mercy." It's like really metal. But so just again, if you like really weird stuff and delightfully just ridiculous cartoons, absolutely check out her things. It is so fun, and I am enjoying the adventure immensely.
I was giggling and blushing the whole time.
I'm so sorry.
Periodic table of
yes.
I was just just from this image alone.
Yeah, if this doesn't sell out, then nothing will. So.
Really, this is a lot of what you will be getting, and her art is very good.
So just to recap, because these are last
get
week's
weird
guest,
Morgan's likes.
Last week's guest, we had never watched or read those books or anything, and this week I will say these were all three new to us as well. So I love it. At New School, Japanese. Oh, good one. I'm not going to offend them at all for that. But yeah, definitely want to check out their music videos if nothing else. Vermis, want to pick these up, most definitely.
Yeah.
Add them to the Christmas list and first list coming up. And last but not least, gotta get this. Rebecca Kirby. Check out her work on Instagram. 118,000 followers, so she has a huge following already. So there's a lot of people enjoying these. Yeah, most definitely. All right, my favorite thing is very boring compared to yours. But we have devoted 5 seasons to Hacks. Me and my wife have. The season finale was last week. I'm an emotional train wreck. I bawled. Me and Tyler were having a cry off, like in our little messenger that we go back and forth about how quick me and him can get emotional over stuff. So this last episode, I had it was just a constant stream going down into my beard of tears, of happy tears, of laughing tears, of sad tears. But yeah, they won the Emmys. They Gene Smart's won for the last few years. Hannah won last year. She's going to win again this year. Great finale, great show to check it out on HBO Max. All 5 seasons are out now. Go watch it and check it out.
Awesome.
Very nice.
That's all I got.
Mine's a little weird. But it's still normal because it's still mainstream stuff.
Okay.
But it's Nicolas Cage, so you're gonna get a little bit of the weird vibes in there.
Yeah.
I ended up really liking this a lot more than I thought I was going to. One, I love the option to watch it in both black and white and full color, which I'll tell you that it actually is full color, because one of my grievances with Hollywood these days is there's so desaturated the color choices we make in films. So the fact that you could actually go from black and white to then full pop in color was really fun. And you choose it with each episode, and you can flip back and forth during the episode, which I did a few times. But of course, Nicolas Cage being Nicolas Cage, who he is, like, you know, you get the full Nick Cage, and it just felt different. It just felt different for a superhero show in today's day and age, and they really nailed like the 1930s kind of vibes and feel. It almost felt like Sin City, where it was like that, you know, almost again, I just felt more comic booky than most other live action films. And the sets were great, the costumes were fantastic. Like I said, I liked the story. I liked all the side actors and actresses as well. Like his assistant throughout the show was absolutely hilarious. Like I've never seen her in anything before, and I was like, my holy crap! I was like, I don't know who this person is, but like they're fantastic. But yeah, I highly suggest it. I might even go back and watch the full series again, like in color, just to like do it for fun.
Wow. But did you watch it mostly in black and white?
I did. I watched it. I was like, it just, even when I switched to color, I was like, it just felt so right in black and white. That noir feel. I mean, it just goes so well. It was funny because I was telling my partner, because this is the images they give you, and I was like, people are going to get duped into thinking like there's a difference between the two other than just black and white and color, because it's like one he's wearing his costume, the other he isn't. So I was like, oh no, people are going to think that like you're going to get something completely different. But no, yeah, and like I said, the color when I switched to it though was still just, it was just interesting because you don't get that a lot, where you get to see that like artistic choice of the two, and like how a shot can just feel kind of completely different in color versus the black and white. But like I said, I suggest the black and white if you're gonna do it at least just the once. To do it that way was a fun way to watch it. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised, which is fun. I was interested in checking it out, but I was kind of like, I don't know, maybe this will be too, you know, mainstream and like okay and generic. But it felt really, and I'm watching Nicolas Cage too talk about it, because again, that same thing, he really thinks through the process and the craft and what he brings to his performances and everything. So yeah, super fun one. And then my other one was Wayshack, because I had shown previously last week that I got a commission from Wayshack at OAX that he'd recently finished, and I just got it today, thankfully. So I first wanted to show off his really cool handwritten note. I thought that was, I was like, man, he did it in brush and everything. I'm like, man, I could just frame this and this be the piece of art itself. And he was incredibly kind enough. I'd asked him about it at the show, and he gave me his newest edition of his most recent sketchbook, Myopia. So flipping through this was absolutely incredible. I mean, the pieces he's gotten here, and just his artistic process for what the sketchbook is, and and especially the cover too, like talking about how he does the cover, he'll just paint over the original cover. So he's painted over the past three, so this is the newest, and he'll paint over this one too, which I think is just such a cool way to do that process. But yeah, I'm just gorgeous works of art in here. I mean, his again, just getting a glimpse into, you know, just his mind, and again, just the creative process is just such a cool thing. And then you get such a variation, because I mean, there's just so many different levels of piece and different color and everything. So super cool to add this one. And then the commission itself, again, the camera doesn't really do it justice at all, but I had asked for Strife from Darksiders. Darksiders is my favorite video game, and so I gave him the option to do one of the Four Horsemen, and he went with Strife. And he just knocked it out of the park. I mean, just the texture work. Yeah, it's so talk good about like the ink kind of stuff. It's similar, where like you can just see the different levels of like heavier inking spots, and just like the texture of the pen, like where he just gets like the hair and everything. It's just insane. He sent the image, and I was like, I can't imagine like looking at this in person. And I like that it's like on this thick board that he likes using too, because it just adds like such a nice heavy weight to the piece itself. But yeah, I was super pleased with this. Wayshack was one where I'd only again recently discovered with Cul-de-sac, and I was so glad I was able to get a commission from him, because it was well worth the little bit of weight there. So yeah, super cool stuff. So
that's awesome. Yeah.
There we go.
And then but just Artist Alley. So we always just like to wrap up with Artist Alley, what previous good buddies are doing their next convention. So of course, with the little over a week, we've got Heroes Con coming up. Lots of good buddies who have been on the show going to that one. So if you were going, you'd be on this list.
Next year. Next year.
Yeah, next year exactly. So, but like you said, definitely looking forward to this one. It's be the third time I think for me. Which is funny.
Third year that we've.
I grew up in the area. I grew up in North Carolina, an hour away from Charlotte, and I never went for some. I'm like, man, if I had a time machine, I'd go back and be like, you need to go to this right now. Such a great show. I just love its love for comics, and like that's all you're going to get there is just comics. So many artists to explore and find. So.
And Morgan, we told other artists this and other people, but that's where Tyler and I first met. Me and Tyler's only met in person
awesome.
three.
Yeah, that's where we got kicked the idea
times.
for the show off. Yeah, you were like, "Hey, you want to do a show?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess." Yeah.
You want to hang out with me? You be my friend, Tyler. But I don't know what happened to the year. Our year got jacked up, something awful on that. But it's not.
0326. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
But really looking forward to hanging out with all of our buddies there and hanging out with Tyler and Seth and everybody and then the next two, then IC3 in Jacksonville is the Independent Creator Con. That'll be coming up July 11th. Jamie Jones will be there along with Matt Sardo, who is one of the people putting the shows on with comic art fans. So definitely go check that out if you're in the area to see a lot of great artists, some that you may not be as quite familiar with, but exposure for them is very important. Yeah. Great work. So yeah, definitely check that out. And previews just for our next shows for everybody that wants to stick with us beyond we're going to do a couple of Heroes shows where we won't have guests, but Derek Loffman will be on June 23rd to close out his Kickstarter. It ends at June 23rd, 10 o'clock Eastern time. So we'll be live as it ends. It's already been fully funded, but we thought it'd be cool just to go on as the clock kicks down to zero. Yeah. And then after we get back from Heroes, Koi Pham and his podcast partner, Matt Yoakum, will be on. And that we really haven't never met Koi. He is going to be at Heroes this year, so we're going to stop by and say hey to him, along with a few other people that's going to be on the show in the future. So I think that's it. Heroes 2026. I do have an announcement for Heroes, our fan meetup. Morgan, me and Tyler first met on the Scotty Young Appreciation Group, and several people from that are going to come to the show. We're having a meetup Thursday night at a restaurant.
Oh, fun.
We've got about 25 people coming so far. We've got reservations. And I have an announcement to make, Tyler. You don't know about this yet.
Oh, no.
He loves it when I make announcements. I stopped by the Family Dollar on the way home from work today, and I picked up these index cards for $1.25 because I'm cheap as all get out. I will be drawing for people that come to the dinner. So it's going to be called, it's the 3 highlighter series because it will be done with ink and the 3 highlighters I have at work. So
incredible.
My daughter's having an event Saturday for Special Olympics. I have to go and be there at like 4 o'clock. We have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. It's over in Eastern Kentucky. So I'll be there all day while they're doing different stuff and having fun. So I will be drawing all my Dustin Whitney originals. Morgan, I'm not an artist. I've never claimed to be. But
I'm sure they're going to be great.
Yeah. I also bought $1.25 worth of envelopes. They will be mystery sketches.
There we go. I like the mystery. Okay.
So yeah. So that's a live announcement, breaking news. So
love to hear it. Claim Lobo from Seth.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Just for you. He will be all pink. All right. If you want to be on the show with us, much like our new good buddy Morgan and all the good buddies before that will come after, please message either Tyler Laracy or myself on either Instagram, on the Good Buddy Comics account, or on any of the Scotty Young Appreciation Group message boards that we have. Also, you can comment on YouTube, check out the show. So we love to have you on here. We love to have guests. Morgan, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. This has been a treat.
Thanks for having me. This was a wonderful time.
No, seriously, yeah, we greatly appreciate your time, and yeah, it's just always fun getting to have different guests on, especially ones who bring such fun and wacky favorite things that we get to explore and find out about.
That. Rebecca Kirby was worth the show. You introduced.
It's really worth checking out.
Before we wrap up, is there anything last minute that you want to plug? Anything coming up other than what we've hit?
Nope. Again, for Better and Worse, my next book won't be out for a very long time, so not plugging that yet. Yeah. But just thanks everybody who's stuck around till now. Appreciate you.
Quite appetites. We will plug it we will keep trying to plug it for as long as we can. So looking forward to it.
Well, thank everybody for sticking around, and for the people who ask questions and interact with us. We always appreciate that. Again, we'll be back next week with hero stuff leading up to the show, and then we'll have guests in the future. But until then, 10-4 good buddies, and we'll catch you on the next one.